sense? Where did you run to, bitch? While I was holding my breath, what sacred faded into nothing. Never put that on me, never put that on me. Denial seems it had to come. Relied on me to say it all. Denial has left you all alone, alone. How can all that shit that you said never make any sense? Where did you run to, bitch? While I was holding my breath, what sacred faded into nothing. Never put that on me, never put that on me. Denial seems it had to come. Relied on me to say it all. Denial has left you all alone, alone. Denial seems it had to come. Relied on me to say it all. Denial has left you all alone, alone. Denial seems it had to come. Relied on me to say it all. Denial has left you all alone, alone.
I left my heart at a pub in Hampstead, and I misplaced my mind in a good way. Threw away my reputation but saved us more heartache. Yes, I know it seems fucked up and you're right, but quite frankly you're still wrong about everything. So far off your seat's nowhere near the table. But I find something sweet in your peculiar behavior. 'Cause I think to be so dumb must be nice. I do. What makes you think you're even invited? The doors are closed, the lights off inside, and all the while there's no one home, you're still outside. I wonder why. What's wrong with a little bit of poison? Tell me. I would rather feel everything than nothing every time. Oh, fear me, stranger. A little bit of sugar, danger. I'd rather be seen and alive than dying by the point of you. I do. I don't remember too much of the last year, but I knew who I was when I got here. 'Cause I'm still the same, but only entirely different. And my love is just some lines in some songs. You think you've read the book, I'm still writing. I can't imagine wanting so badly to be right, 'cause I'm forever on your mind. I wonder why. What's wrong with a little bit of poison? Tell me. I would rather feel everything than nothing every time. Oh, fear me, stranger. A little bit of sugar and danger. I'd rather be seen and alive than dying by the point of view. Rather be swimming with you than drowning in a crowded room. I do.
I was sick and tired of everything. When
when I called you last night from Glasgow. All I do is eat and sleep and sing, wishing every show was the last show. So imagine I was glad to hear you're coming. Suddenly I feel alright, and it's gonna be so different when I'm on the stage tonight. Tonight the Super Trooper lights are gonna find me shining like the sun, smiling, having fun, feeling like a number one. Tonight the Super Trooper beams are gonna blind me, but I won't feel blue like I always do. Somewhere in the crowd there's you. Facing 20,000 of your friends, how can anyone be so lonely? Part of a success that never ends, still I'm thinking about you only. There are moments when I think I'm going crazy, but it's gonna be alright. Everything will be so different when I'm on the stage tonight. Tonight the Super Trooper lights are gonna find me shining like the sun, smiling, having fun, feeling like a number one. Tonight the Super Trooper.
Everything XboxEra does is only made possible by the growing army of incredible Patreon supporters. Our MVPs and executive producers are all incredible people, but even more so are our grand benefactors, Krafton, Assassin and Kevin S. All of this under the watchful eye of our lovely and benevolent CEO, Torn Raptor. If you want to become part of one of the best communities on the internet, head to patreon.com/XboxEra, where your patronage can help keep us alive for another month. This is XboxEra. We're an independent, community-funded publication focused on providing the best coverage and discussion of your favourite platform, Xbox. With best-in-class forums, a kick-ass Discord server, and awesome merch, XboxEra.com is your destination for the best news, reviews, and features focused on what you care about. With shows like the XboxEra podcast, headlines, and a whole heap of Patreon-exclusive content, we're proud to be an independent publication completely funded by you. If you value having an outlet truly focused on your preferred place to play, you can become one of the cool kids by supporting us directly via Patreon. Just head to patreon.com/XboxEra. You get cool swag and awesome perks, and we get to keep doing what we do. Become a part of the best Xbox community on the internet and help us grow even larger. Thank you for your support. Hello friends, and welcome to episode 271 of the XboxEra podcast, because for 271 weekends we haven't had anything better to do. We're here to discuss the latest in gaming from across the video game industry, but overall we're focused on everybody's drama attracting platform, Xbox. We're a fiercely independent and community-driven publication, and we're empowered completely by our Patreon and YouTube member community. So big thank you to all of you lot. So especially big shout outs to our MVPs, executive producers, but especially our grand benefactors, Krafton, Assassin, and the amazing Kevin S, who really went above and beyond during our subathon yesterday. And of course our wonderful CEO, Torn Raptor. As always, I'm not joined by special Nick, but instead we have the lovely Jesse here, and very special guest, CEO, co-founder of Press Engine, keep me honest here, and co-founder of charity org Safe in Our World, Gareth Williams. Again, second time on. Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm all right. It's been a long week, but it's been all right.
It's been a weird week. I don't know quite how, and heads up to everybody watching right now, because Nick's not on, and because Jesse and I do news shows twice a week. I don't know like how long we're going to go for. Like it's going to be an interesting show. It's going to probably be, touch wood, short and sweet. But yeah,
I don't even have a game show planned.
I know. We're just playing it by ear because we're still on a crazy high after yesterday's subathon. I don't know if you saw this, Gareth, but our amazing community, because going to Gamescom, going to Summer Games Fest for a little outlet like ours is expensive. So we hold these little subathons where, like every 3 months or so, we try and get everyone together and we collect all the games to give away. And the community raised so much money that I have to dye my hair green for Gamescom.
I am all down with that.
Yeah, the lots. Funnily enough, Daniel Bloodworth from Easy Allies said, "I look forward to seeing this." So
I can predict that every appointment that you go to at Gamescom, everybody will notice you.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's funny. We set a goal we never thought we'd get close to, and then we went right through it by the end of the stream, and it was
it
shocking.
shows how much the community cares about what you do and want to help, right?
Yeah, that is effectively the impression we certainly get from a lot of our community, and it's a wonderfully humbling, privileged position to be in. And like Jesse and I have to admit, if people watched the stream yesterday, I did have to kind of like look down for a little while because I was probably just a little bit overwhelmed by the generosity of some people. It is insane. But the relief is palpable because, we can go and not like fret that we'll starve or shut down or whatever the case may be.
We're not losing money on a trip for once.
Yeah. Well,
the trips have been for networking and making fun content, but they're pretty expensive. And they don't, make a ton of money from the coverage from them because a lot of people are doing the exact same coverage. So
yeah. And it's an interesting one, actually. And on that, Gareth, I don't know what your thoughts are. You've worked in the video game industry for a very long while, despite some Twitter gremlins perhaps saying, "Who the hell are you?" We'll leave them to one side for a minute. We'll come back to that one later on. But like from a PR perspective, Jesse and I have talked about this with other perhaps peers within the industry. And from our perspective, you get these PR companies and they will throw emails at you and they'll often say something like exclusive interview or exclusive. And it's not. You've sent this to 200 people. What are you talking about? And then the expectation for us to take time out, go and write this, go and interview, go and do whatever. Do they acknowledge that likely is not revenue generating? Ergo, should we do it? And how do the PR companies handle that from your point of view and your experience?
So it's an interesting one. To pull some stats from my arse, I am allowed to swear at this, aren't I?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're encouraged.
Fuck yeah, you are.
That's really fucking beautiful arse. Although it's probably not as good as it was. There's around 5,500 people signed up for events on Press Engine, one of which is Jon, by the way. So I know exactly what he's going to see at Gamescom that's gone through the platform, if I wanted to look. But it's interesting to see the amount of people that do sign up for events, but then aren't going to them because they can't afford to. And I've seen a few of those responses saying, "Hey, I'm not going this year. Are you doing any support?" Which is one of the reasons why I think it was 2013, maybe 2014, I did a Borderlands 2 bus and just basically said, "We'll get you there. You just need a hotel. And in return, you can come and see this game." And it really helped out a bunch of people. But even the Daily Mail run it, believe it or not. Because even places like the Daily Mail, for those that don't know, the Daily Mail internationally, horrible thing.
Yeah, awful paper. My parents are good people, but they read the Daily Mail and I'm like, what? Come on, guys. And they're like, we do the crosswords. That's it. We just
kind of newspapers. You have the newspapers and then the ones that are designed for people above the age of 55, which is their average readership, which is like, this is horrible, stop migration, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Let's not get political, though. But the person that wrote for it was a good guy. That's happening more and more. The PR agencies and the PR people at the publishers, they kind of have to say exclusive first look or something like that because the response rates are lower than they've ever been because there's less people going. And those that actually work for what we call the top tier publications, they're less responsive than they used to be. When I was working in journalism, I'd get an email and be like, "Yeah, cool, this sounds great, let's go and do it." Now you have to wait days. You have to chase. So the dynamic has changed somewhat. But generally speaking, Gamescom is where there was E3. E3 was the thing that everybody had to be at to showcase their game, to be in front of the world's media. The difference is now that is Gamescom.
Yeah.
Summer Games Fest is great, but it's an insulated, smaller event,
Mhm.
and you still get brilliant media going there, right? But there's a smaller amount of them. Whereas Gamescom, the media list for Gamescom, usually about 9,000 contacts, of which 7,500 never write about video games but turn up anyway. But actually, you get more publications, radio stations, broadcast at Gamescom than anywhere else now. So it's becoming the place you have to be at to either announce a game, to launch a game if you're shadow dropping. Don't do that, most people. It's a waste of time. Or if you are going, right, this is the first chance for you to play the game. So as an example, I am working on a game separately from my press engine stuff.
Ooh.
It will be the first time people play the game, and Jon has not yet responded. But
We're stuck waiting on. Look, we are stuck waiting on Microsoft and Capcom. We're only there for 2 days, and we want to see their stuff, and so it's really holding us back on saying yes to all the other stuff. Because, as you have said, like Summer Games Fest had a lot of cool things, mainly from like a handful of companies and a handful of smaller publishers, and also it was not a great time to travel to the U.S. Not that there's probably going to ever be a good one to do that internationally for any time soon, but at Gamescom, it's just been nonstop, and it was way earlier than last year too. Like it was almost 3 weeks earlier on getting invites for Gamescom stuff this year, and it's everything.
I feel like SGF though, like it is so. What's the phrase? It is so very much suited for the folks that happen to live in LA or near LA, and
it has enough space for them and a little more. Summer Games Fest Summer Games Fest, the entire footprint of it is 1/8 of an aircraft hangar at the Colon Mess. Like it's nothing, and there's 9 or 10 of those. Like it's insane how big Gamescom is.
Easier to see stuff, right?
A lot. Yes.
I think I also want to rescue Jon here because I haven't actually invited Jon yet, so I'm sure he's going to check his email.
Panic searching.
But I haven't done it yet, Jon. That's next week. But the difference with Gamescom is organised in a way that is efficient. Forgive me for saying it, but Germans are efficient. And the old E3 used to be whatever it's called, the conference center in LA, and it was like 3 halls, big, huge, busy, but they only ever let 15,000 people in it.
Yeah.
Gamescom lets 30,000 people in just to the business area, and then another 350,000 people in the consumer area, which is right next to the business area. But the business area has, I think, 4 halls, 2 stacked on top of each other, and it's the most efficient, brilliant way of getting from A to B.
Yep.
And you never have to go to the consumer area. Nothing wrong with consumers. Love them to bits.
Yeah.
I don't need to walk through a wall of people to get my job done.
A wall of smells.
Yeah. One of the things I've definitely learned about Gamescom is getting appointments. And you think when you do the tour of the show floor and you go, oh, okay, that game's over there in Hall 7. And then you realize, no, they've got a separate booth for you in the business area. Where there is no...
There's an up the stairs.
Yeah. And you feel like a plonker for being anywhere else. Like, lesson learned. You definitely learned
they had free Red Bulls.
Kilometers.
I was really wired most of last year.
Yeah, it was fun.
And it's a great city. Like, LA's got great parts, but LA is really big and really varied in its quality. And it's a mess to get around. Whereas Cologne is, built for... just walking or using the actual good public transportation, which LA finally has some of, at least. But yeah.
Well, the Gamescom pass, the business area pass, comes with free public transport.
Mm-hmm.
So you just jump on and away you go.
Yep. And it says to go to the Colon Mess, the big center, but they never cared. I was never checked, but I always had it in case I needed it.
Yeah. It's just an interesting. I think there's a big challenge going on in the industry right now. I mean, we'll get into that. There's lots of challenges facing the video game industry right now, but I've often found it I think, and obviously I'm biased because I think XboxEra and the work we do is really good. But I look at how much we do and how many games we actually review and how many videos we make of those reviews and so on and so on. And I'm like, What are all these other guys doing? What are they doing? And it's usually guide work, which is where you make your money, which is why there is a massive difference between fan sites and big sites, I think.
You call it your fan site.
So I can tell you, I'm one of these weird people because I built this platform that does loads of stuff. One of the things it does is it tracks all the coverage from everybody. And when an announcement goes out, one of the things that you used to do, let's go back 5 years, because realistically the difference is 3 years ago. 5 years ago, you put out an out now launch announcement, you get 200 to 300 stories on average. To do that now, you get 80 to 120 at most. The rest of it is people going, how to do this in a game, how to do this in like individual stories for each individual set. You remember our game FAQs used to be, this is how you get through the game from A to B.
Yeah, now they're all individual articles.
Now it's 45 articles. If you look at, no disrespect, this is actually a good thing. Look at Game Rant, day one, most major releases, 40 to 80 stories on guides, day one. That is because they're going for that traffic. And you can see the different publications that do it, because day one is Game Rant, Game 8, and a few others. I won't name check everybody, but I see it come through and I'm like, I remember when I used to do this, the game has changed.
Yeah. It's depressing, really, because we as human beings, like, that is a collective response to how people utilize the internet now. I only ever use a guide if I'm actually genuinely stuck, but some people will immediately go in and start straight away. I'm going to play this game and use this guide to play through for the first time, and I'm like, what? Why?
Where's the enjoyment there? And
what is this?
I think they're two very specific different kinds of content. So guide content is like, cool, what can this tell me about the game before I play it or while I'm playing it? But opinion is so important. If you look at some of the most successful sites in the world, imdb.com as an example, when I look at a film or a movie for our non-British people, if I look at a movie, I want to see what people have reviewed it, whether that's critical reviews or whether it's user reviews. I want that opinion. I'm not necessarily interested in who's done the cinematography. I'm not necessarily interested in how they filmed X scene. I want to know other people's opinions of the film. And games industry used to be like that, and it's becoming less like that because of the rush to guide content, because Google screwed everyone over.
Yep.
Yeah.
Continually, and now they're supposedly going after the copy spam AI videos on YouTube. I'm curious how that ends up working out, because it's real bad.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah. There's a lot of it, and I wish they'd do that on search, not just on YouTube.
Yeah, I think they will eventually do it on search.
Algorithms.
They will eventually do it because they want to scrape actual human writing, and they don't want to keep promoting the AI stuff. They just got to figure out ways to detect it better, probably.
Yeah, it's weird, but hey, that's this crazy industry. Moderate tangent, Trav. All right, buckle up. There'll probably be a few. Before we get into like news topics and things like that of the week, I've actually we normally always talk about what we've been playing, and for once, I actually got to play a lot of video games for enjoyment, excluding, of course, everything we played yesterday as a part of the Summer Subathon, which obviously was super successful for us. If you missed that, by the way, folks, the full 11-hour live stream is up on our YouTube channel. And Jesse and I are basically chilling out and hanging out with everybody and having conversations.
John's crying here and
there. It
there.
was just a good time. Yeah, maybe emotional. It was dusty, all right? But like, it was nice to play through Little Nightmares 2 again, because I haven't played that game since 2021, and
you did the whole thing.
I did the whole thing in that stream. But also, I've taken this week to kind of start clearing the backlog, which is always a pleasant thing to be able to do. I completed from start to finish Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which was good fun and had some really good story moments in it that hit. And I just golden pathed this stuff. I don't care about any of the pad this out fluff. I just went straight through to the end of the story. But some really good moments in there. I won't spoil it for people that haven't played it yet, but played the rumored to be very broken PC version. And throughout the entire time, the only glitch I had was right at the very end. The cloak I was wearing was like doing like a little dance behind me throughout all the cutscenes, which I found amusing more than irritating.
Yeah, one of the main issues with it still is that the way this Unreal was built, it just does not use multiple cores. So it's kind of like the old Crysis issue where you can have a super powerful PC with a bunch of cores, but it's super powerful in a way that it just isn't taking advantage of by default.
Yeah, it was good though, and I still feel it's super janky in points, but I also like the fact that Respawn prioritized responsiveness over animations looking super realistic. So it felt like a video game, which was fine by me. But yeah, super fun, super good kind of like variety of gameplay and some cool powers to use and some cool plot points. I liked it. I also completed Avowed. That's a long time since I've completed an RPG, and I know a lot of people will be like, "It's not an RPG. It's really streamlined." It was fine. I had a good time with it, and I'm gonna start the Outer Worlds so that I can have that done before the Outer Worlds.
There's a chance, if you remember to actually grab it, that you have the Spacer's Choice edition of the Outer Worlds on Epic Games Store because they gave it away for free.
Yeah,
that would be the one to go for if you could.
I'm terrible.
You shouldn't be. My library is bonkers big, thanks to being an Amazon Prime member and getting all the Twitch gaming stuff. But people who say it's a choice-driven RPG where you guide a story in various preset directions. It's not Baldur's Gate, and that whole long worked on engine specifically for that type of jump around choice game is a very specific thing that me, as someone who really likes RPGs, doesn't have the patience for. So like for me, I would much rather play a game like Dragon Age, The Veilguard, Avowed, The Outer Worlds, Starfield, even, where you are massaging a path to your liking more than you are building a whole story. I don't have the creativity or the patience for it myself, though I can greatly appreciate how good they are. And I thought Avowed's writing and gameplay mix, as well as its very good looks, because Obsidian with this whole Xbox budget and Unreal fork, pretty damn good.
It looks gorgeous. I think the thing I loved most about it was the combat, like it and the parkour, like moving around and just exploring was like a little game within the game. But yeah, it was great. And the last thing I played that's worth mentioning is it dropped on Game Pass, I think, earlier this week, which is Minimi Lane. If you are a Patreon member or a current YouTube member, you should have access to the Patreon Peeps playlist on our YouTube channel, where we don't have time for a review, but we do want to give like a first look, first impressions.
We quickly take a peep at something.
Yeah,
a look, one might call it.
Patrons. Yeah, so you can have a ganders. I played through it. I ended up, after I finished the Patreon Peeps, I could do a review on it now because I completed it today.
You should write one up.
Super chill. It's just a chilled out little build a street thing. It's not normally my kind of jam, but it's inoffensive enough to be quite enjoyable. You can go check that out now. If you obviously want to become a Patreon to get access to all this wonderful exclusive content, head over to patreon.com/XboxEra. Gareth, what about you? Have you actually been getting to play any actual video games, or do you just get to talk about them nowadays?
Well, I did work a lot. And when I say work a lot, there are a couple of nights I was working till like 11, 9 o'clock because stuff needed doing. But don't do that, kids. That's bad. You should always make time for other stuff. But then on Wednesday, I played 5 hours of Civilization 7.
Ooh,
it's had a few patches since launch. Like, how are you finding it?
There are a few things I don't like about it, like most of the community that likes Civilization. I had the pleasure of working on the last 2 Civilizations before, so like Dream, when I was 20 years ago, was to work for Xbox. Dream 10 years ago was I wish I could work with Firaxis on Civ and XCOM and all that kind of stuff. And I got to, and it was amazing. But this is the first one I haven't worked on, and I was really excited to play it. And I bought it and I hadn't made time. But I don't like the change in ages. And for those that don't play, you usually just played all the way through and it would say you're entering the modern era. Whereas now it makes you change how you play and choose different ways to play it. And that's fine for player choice and kind of takes me out of the zone that I'm in. I think the largest mistake they made, and I mean this as a compliment, they tried to do the right thing at Firaxis, and they didn't do a world map. So normally you have different kinds of maps like fractals, online mode, islands, all that kind of stuff. But you would always have an Earth map. And they decided not to do that this time because they thought it was unbalanced and didn't present the right way to play the game. On Steam Workshop, where support was added recently, one of the first things that's added in the last couple of weeks was an Earth map. Do you know what? I had the best time playing that Earth map.
Ah, there you go.
Sometimes design decisions are for the right reason, but give you the wrong outcome, in my opinion. And playing that Earth map was super fun. I love, like, when you're revealing the map, working out where you are in the world first is half the fun. And then you go, cool, how do I take as much of this land as possible?
Yeah, what continent am I on?
Yeah. A different example would be, so I actually played it like 3 nights in a row. I've done a bad thing and kept doing it, which is, one more turn. But I played the largest map possible, where it's 2 continents. And I was like, I've got this entire continent. I am super on it. And then the world revealed itself, and the 2 continents were like a huge one that I was on and a smaller one that they were on. But there was an entire huge landmass that I hadn't explored. And I was like, if that was the Earth, I'd know exactly what I was doing.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I like some of the changes they've made. I dislike some of the changes they've made, which probably reverberates some of the stuff that the community that plays Civilization have said. But Civilization only gets better with time. When they release more content, when they release more modes, like I've never played Civ Online. I have no want to play Civ Online because I want to play, I basically want to say play Civilization Revolution, but on the full Civ experience, do like 4-hour playthrough. Yeah. And I've never lost a game at whatever setting I've put on because I work hard. But I think I'm not the average Civ player anymore. I think the average Civ player is probably a little bit younger than my old ass self.
Oh.
But maybe they want different customers to get level 7. That was a long way of saying, yes, I played a game this week. Sorry.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, it's interesting because Civ, this one in particular, it feels like, and I don't want to say designed by committee, right? But certainly designed with, well, we're launching on Netflix, so we want to be playable there. We want to simplify. We want to streamline a lot of these things. And it's kind of like, and I think it launched on Switch, right? So, and mobile. I think it's also mobile friendly for the first time. The Civ 7, like the same thing. I might be wrong.
Maybe handheld.
I don't know because I've only ever played on PC. And because they had Civilization Revolution on Xbox. Oh, well.
Yeah, because I think those changes are what I read a lot of the community kind of was like, ugh, because it felt like, okay, and like there's 2 mindsets, right? For your hardcore fan base, they're going to be like, why have you done this? But for the people making Civ, they're like, because we want to be able to make the next Civ. Because we have to expand the audience now because this is too hard for us.
But you have to also understand that Civilization. Sorry, I'm not trying to belittle you when I say this in any way. No. Civilization's audience is on PC. It's
absolutely
on 90% on PC. It's one of the best performing 2K games that they have. If you ignore GTA as this like huge monolithical thing, Civ 7 would be one of its highest selling games, if not the highest selling game every year. So keep those people happy first, right?
That's what you would think, right? But I think that those design decisions of like, well, hey, look, if we don't grow that audience, and this all boils down to how this industry is kind of being formed now. Is just like, but we've got to have the number go up. If we don't have the number go up, like things are bad. We have to start firing people. Microsoft. It's great. But I don't want to depress anyone by talking about how miserable all of that is. Jesse, what have you been playing this week? You been playing any good video games that you can talk about?
Yep.
Legally.
Remember, I put up multiple reviews this week. Multiple one-day reviews because College Football 26 came in for me. Day of launch, like always with EA Sports, they don't normally seed us, at least us, early. Probably the best playing football game I've ever played. I don't give 2 tin shits about college sports, but this game of American Hand Egg is the best feeling one I can remember. I really loved the NFL 2K games on the Dreamcast, but those were extremely arcadey. Same with NBA 2K back then. Like there were very specific ways to win in those games that weren't really sports. They were very fun arcade versions of of the actual American leagues. This one is just an enormous, let's take the foundation we made after bringing this thing back after well over a decade away, and let's make every single part of it better and bigger. So it really feels, I think college football in the U.S. is the closest you find to like the way soccer is, association football, aka soccer, is talked about and just so ingrained culturally in most of the world outside of America, where it is getting bigger. Like there's just, it's all about the atmosphere in college sports. Really loud, raucous fans, huge rivalries, weird, crazy shit like friggin' donkeys and dogs and weird mascots and stuff. Like, and this game I think is the best representation they've had of that. And overall, it just plays the best, I think, by far. Like, it's not even close.
That's a good compliment, though.
Yeah. It's the main thing I cared about as someone who's not super into all the minutia around it. Like, the actual, just go have fun playing an exhibition match or doing a college rivalry or something. Really good. So I got that one out. Because I made sure I actually played. When I said yes to taking a review code, I went and I played a bunch of 25. And I immediately was like, oh, 26, this feels way better. And it's been funny seeing some comments trying to be like, this is the exact same game. I'm like, man, it is not at all. This feels real good to play. Much like the other thing I had essentially one day to do, because we didn't make wave 1, but we made wave 2 of review codes for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4. So like 5 hours after the embargo, I got a code. I had already played every single park and everything at the preview event. So I just really needed to get a bunch of good footage and double check my work. And yeah, it's fantastic. It's one of those, and I went back and emulated the old ones, and it looks and feels like what you remember, but the actual looks are an enormous step up. Like Iron Galaxy did a fantastic job of keeping the feel of the Tony Hawk games without looking anything like what they used to, because it is such a huge step up.
It's very pretty.
It's gorgeous. It plays perfectly. Like I have zero complaints. They had modernized 1 and 2 a little bit. That was by Vicarious Visions, I think, before they were absorbed into the Diablo team, I think now. But yeah, Iron Galaxy absolutely killed this one. The new music choices are really good, because it was Tony Hawk himself who actually said he really wanted new music to try and help that. The discoverability, which was always a really big thing back in the old Tony Hawk games. It's got a really good tutorial mode, which is what's flying through now on screen, where it just slowly walks you through all the stuff. I mostly just played as the Doom guy because they gave us the digital deluxe edition, and he looks really cool. So yeah, it's a really easy one to recommend on Game Pass. There's a trial for the other one for college football on Game Pass as well. So you can check them both out if you got it. Game Pass Ultimate, sorry, for both. But yeah. The other things were all the goddamn games we played yesterday. I do think you and I have to go through Phasmophobia, not VR. I think it'll be a lot easier to do.
Yeah, I'm down with that. Like VR Phasmophobia was not,
it was too dark.
Okay.
Couldn't see anything.
It wasn't even that. It just didn't feel good.
Yeah, well, it's not supposed
it was
to,
so janky.
Because that makes you more scared because you can't really do things correctly. Like I know that's what they're going for, but also like whenever something dropped, I couldn't pick it up because I was 4 inches too tall. And whenever I was on screen looking at you, you'd be holding a flashlight. Your hand would be empty, and the flashlight was like over here, and the light didn't go correctly, so I couldn't see anything. But yeah, we will get a very scary game out of John.
What's that, Gareth?
I'm glad you said flashlight there and not
yeah,
torch.
It wasn't that kind of stream.
Sorry.
I mean, after the stream, I very much heard that things like that were going to happen. I don't want to. I'm already scarred enough.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Always.
Am I allowed to take a minor tangent? Because I actually want to get some...
When you're in this box, you're in Nick's box.
The tangent box.
You are in the tangent box. You can tangent away.
Okay. So you said, so this proves I was listening as well, right? You said we got it 5 hours after embargo.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to ask a couple of questions on that.
Yeah.
The first is, do you have that problem with a lot of people?
No, I have it with Xbox.
it depresses me to say that, but I don't want to speak ill of my Xbox.
I will just say it plainly. Out of all the people that we work with, and we've built up really good relationships with everyone, the only one I ever consistently run into this with are the three arms of Microsoft.
Yeah. Oh well, I'm actually going to exclude Bethesda.
Oh no, Bethesda's pretty good. Code. Yeah.
But yeah, like
you're going to have problems with Bethesda soon, though, because
it's all been merged, right? But this is where I get extremely frustrated, and again, I have to perhaps speak diplomatically rather than couch my words, because I'm not going to like.
Yeah, I don't think they dislike us.
Yeah,
I just think
this
that
isn't like
you guys there in the UK don't get the same status.
Yeah, so
I was in the US.
The way that Microsoft seem to handle things is the US. Tell me if you've heard this one before, dear Xbox consumers. Microsoft in the US, if you're US based, you're in that list, great, good for you. You know, so we see like the hey, here's a special edition Series S Tony Hawk's with a pad. Here's this pad. Here's that pad. You know, all of those things, like in terms of promotional stuff, we rarely get a look in. Like a good friend of mine at Microsoft sorted me out with this wonderful Towerbomb box only because we covered the game far above and beyond what most outlets did, right? Because we actually liked the game.
Yeah.
But like we found we often get the responses, there were limited codes, or we only had limited
mostly
numbers
previews
we could send out in the UK.
Yeah, it's mostly previews that are hard. Yeah.
It's usually preview based, and that creates a really difficult conversation for us with our wonderful community, because they're here to hear about the platform that they play on from people that happen to actually also play on the platform, not people that don't ever play on the platform but occasionally have to review a game here, but people that actually live in the ecosystem, breathe the ecosystem, and understand it. And that gets really frustrating, because it's like really hard to turn around to our audience and be like, we haven't got anything. We didn't even know this was happening, and then suddenly all the previews are like.
I tweeted because people were asking, "Oh, where's your Tony Hawk review?" When all the other ones popped up, it's like I didn't even know there was an embargo today, because I was told at launch, and so then I put up the tweet just saying, "Yeah, sorry, we didn't make the list this time," and I had the code within 20 minutes of putting that tweet up. I'm curious.
So I can be less diplomatic here when I respond, right? Are you okay if I do that, or do you want me to?
Of course, yeah. You're not us.
There are two things to consider in this respect. Firstly, how many codes do people get? Code used to be no problem from Steam. You could have as many codes as you want. You go, right, I need 2,000 for influencers, I need 3,000 for World's Media, I need 25,000 for a beta program I'm doing with AMD. 4 hours later, without fail, automatically it'll appear ready for download. Nintendo Switch, you traditionally get 1,000 codes when you're launching a product. You get them when it passes certification, but they're split by region. So if you ever want to get Nintendo Switch code for anything, ask for Australia, New Zealand, or ANZ code, because there's always 50 of those that nobody uses. When it comes to PlayStation, it can vary depending on your level of partnership. Average is 2,000. When it comes to Xbox, some people get 1,000, some people get 4,000. When you're Xbox, you own the platform, seriously. You can generate as many codes as you want, because they're just not for resale codes based on the 5x5 system. Now, here's the problem. With Xbox, you have code, and you have unlock codes.
Yes.
With anything that's on, so for those that don't know, the difference between that is code allows you to own that product. You're given a 5x5 code, you put it in, and you own that product. An unlock code is, it used to be that you'd need the code and the unlock code to receive it early because it's digital based. Whereas now with Game Pass, an unlock code allows you to access it early.
Yeah. There's less of that now. They've even started more using the Xbox Insider Hub. So you would have to actually like, okay, my email address is this, like I'll whitelist my console, my device, this is my gamer tag where I'm going to play, and then they will grant you an advanced access.
Yeah.
And the Gamer Hub actually now gives you the game too, because it used to just be its own build, but they've worked it out so that it's just there through the Insider Hub tied to your gamer tag, and then once the game is out, you still own it. Because like I technically still don't own Halo Infinite because I reviewed it on a build that's gone forever.
There are some that stopped the moment that that the game was out. If you didn't have the full code and you only had the unlock code, you would no longer be able to play the game, which is a bit stupid. Here's the problem with that, though. Where you say we were supplied it after launch, there are 3 reasons to do something with an embargo. The first is, the most important one, you are part of the marketing funnel. You're trying to get as much coverage at one time as possible to flood the market with information about this game. It's called surge marketing. Yep. You would have advertising, programmatic, social. You would have page ads. That doesn't happen as much anymore on websites, but page ads, MPUs. You would then have everything happening online with events, and you would also have loads of reviews and news if you're on launch day. That's the ideal way for everybody to know that you have a game available to buy. Please go and do that. The second reason for an embargo is to ensure that you are controlling the flow of information. And that is to go, okay, here's an embargo, and I'm going to work with specific targets to get the best result for this game. And the reason for that is it is entirely it's within the gift of anybody doing PR or marketing for a video game to choose who they work with. Not everybody should feel that they're entitled to a game.
Absolutely true.
Because they got a publication, right? Now, I'm not saying that's your point. But the third reason to do an embargo is to not provide code. Now, there's some people out there who work in PR who might be listening to this go, well, that sounds stupid. The reason to put an embargo up without providing code is just say, this is when we're expecting all coverage to hit. And if you don't provide code and no coverage hits, let's say mind's eye, it sounds, I'm not trying to beat around the bush. There was no reviews for Mind's Eye because
there wasn't.
It was there was an issue with the game. They've tried to fix it. Fine, go away and do it. It wasn't because there were nefarious people working against them to sabotage them, as the leads of the studio said. One is Mark Gerhardt, one is Leslie Benzies. There wasn't any of that. They just didn't provide the content because they weren't confident in the game because it was inherently broken.
Yeah.
They gave it to influencers.
Not inherently broken. It's just there were some issues with the game.
Yeah,
yeah.
Most times the devs know what they have, and that one went to influencers who appeared to have agreements to not disparage the game. Though many of them laughed when trying to say.
And I don't agree with it. You should ask for people's opinions, not tell them what it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's modern game PR nowadays. Is that publications and reviewers are kind of like old hat, and it's much easier to get some big, multi-million view streamer to stream your game for money, and just have fun and just show it off on stream. Well, great, okay, that's more worthwhile to us.
It's partly Google's fault because they screwed everyone over for the last 2 years. There's less traffic going to websites and then onto the stores.
Yeah.
Whereas an influencer can go and buy this now. It's here on this channel, blah, blah, blah. And they can track that through link attribution. Yeah. I think there's a place for that. But I also think, and maybe I'm old as fuck, as we've already established I'm allowed to swear, so I'm going to get at least one fuck in every 15 minutes. But there is inherent value in the opinions of passionate people within a community.
I agree with that.
I don't know if this was still happening when you started
freezing up.
XboxEra, but was the Xbox community good? That means it isn't or wasn't. So Xbox Community Network was started by Microsoft in the UK in 2004, and it was a bunch of Xbox fan sites that they gave access to games where they wouldn't normally do it.
Yeah.
And it ran for about 10 years, and it was run by a guy called Gareth Morris for the first few years, and then it was run by the agency that did the actual thing. Lady called Chrissy, who's still a friend on Facebook. I was a member of the Xbox Community Network, and I got access to stuff that I didn't, and it made me really happy. But as Microsoft became more profitable, probably the wrong word, as Microsoft became more popular with the 360, that started to die down a little bit because they became more professional in how they did stuff. And I don't mean Microsoft becoming more professional, but how they worked with communities changed.
Yeah.
And I will say this quite openly because I know some of the people that work on the Xbox account in the UK and the US, so they'll probably give me shit for it. There's no reason to supply you code 5 hours after release of a game. You can supply it to you before then and just say, meet the embargo. As much as I value the value of independent, passionate opinion, it won't make much of a difference to Microsoft in the grand marketing scheme of things.
No.
So why wouldn't you supply you the code?
It's frustrating because it just feels so, from my perspective, right, or from our collective perspective, very haphazard, right?
No,
like,
what it is, and as the one who's normally trying to get them all, it always feels like there's a hierarchy to it, and it took us getting, like why do companies care about getting on Metacritic and being top critics on OpenCritic? Like it really opened up for us when we got on Metacritic, and I got more responses than I ever had before. I didn't change the way I talked. I didn't change anything in the approach. It was always super cordial, super polite. You don't owe me a code. Hey, we would like to cover this as a website. We'll do a written and a video review. Gotta be honest, we list everything on OpenCritic, even though we didn't count. But once we hit Metacritic, everything opened up. And then when we got Top Critic on OpenCritic, I can't remember the last time I didn't at least get a response when trying to get something. Because it helps them if it's a positive or a negative. It hurts them, but they said they got to take that risk. Like I've never once had anyone Western try and control editorial. I've had a few weird, I think, translation errors sometimes with Eastern, like straight up companies, not even the PR company, like intermediary between them, because a lot of the Eastern stuff I do is through 47, who are just enormous and really good to work with. Like they ran most of Summer Games Fest, and they were all awesome and really cool to finally meet in person. But yeah, for the most part, it very much feels like you have to work really hard doing a lot of indies and late AAAs to get to the point where you finally start getting AAs and AAAs occasionally, to the point where you move from being influencer in EA's mind to press in EA's mind. And that ends up counting for a lot, because when you're new, you're always just in that influencer, and they don't trust influencers because they're smart and they shouldn't. So you don't get things until launch or day before. But the moment we can finally be like, okay, we know you, we trust you, and you've gone up the hierarchy enough, then you're limited by your reach, and they'll probably look into what traffic you do and all that type of stuff. And the bigger ones are always going to get way more. We get one code generally, and I can that's where I get
super frustrated, because I know that there are massive websites out there that like the entire, like, and I'm not saying like, I'm not,
or way smaller US sites that get like 5 and we can barely get one, just because they're US and they have more options.
And I feel like that is very much a case of who you know. Like when we heard we were going to Summer Games Fest, right? So reached out to Xbox, hey, we're going. They asked, hey, are you going? I was like, yep, we're going. Myself and Jesse will be there. My colleague Arthur will be there. Looking forward to it. Keep us informed of any appointments. Didn't hear anything for weeks, right? And we're filling up our calendar. So I pinged and like, hey, you know, like, haven't heard from you. Oh, sorry, there's nothing available. I'm like, what? Like, you asked me at this date and said, are you going? I said, yeah. You said, cool. We'll be in touch. Then you weren't in touch, and now you're telling me there's nothing available. What the hell do you mean? Like, we were, I ended up, I sent, and perhaps foolishly, but I was angry. And it's one of those scenarios where you write a snotty email and you think, no, look, it's not this individual's fault. Rewrite that email. I ended up emailing Jeff Rubenstein. I was like, bro, help me out here. Like, I don't understand. Like, 95%, is it because we're UK based? 95% of our traffic is US. Like, 90% of the staff are in US. Like, is it just because it says XboxEra Limited UK? Like, what's the problem? And eventually they did get us into one thing, right? So I'm wandering around that venue, seeing all of the usual crowd. Like, you know, there's Ryan McCaffrey wandering around, there's Jordan Midler from VGC wandering around, there's various outlets all there. But I only got like that one appointment, and it's only because, and this is where I feel like it's who you know. I bumped into Jason Ronald the night before I went, and he was like, "Oh, you only got one appointment?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Let me make a call. There's something you need to see." And he got me into the hands-on with the new handheld, because he reads our content, and he sees that, like, you know, we actually are interested, we're passionate about what we do, and straight away email from the US side, yeah, we'll get you in. I'm like. And it was really frustrating to me, because I'm wandering around and I'm like, I can see Ninja Gaiden 4 and I can see Grounded 2 and I can see the Outer Worlds 2, but I didn't get to go and try any of them because I wasn't on the list. And it's like, we're called freaking Xbox era, guys. And I guess that's where I get a little bit frustrated with the old way of doing PR, is because, like, people can call me an idiot. People can say, "Oh, the Xbox tax isn't real," but like, I will not understand the pervasive need to go for, let's say, certain outlets. I'm not going to name any that will look. It doesn't matter what you do, guys. They're out there. They're saying it publicly. Xbox could make 10 out of 10 games. It's too late. Like, if that's the attitude going in before you've even given them something to look at, how do you think your coverage is going to be? Like, how do you think that's going to be? Are they going to give things a fair I don't know. I get cross about it because, like, we want to be able to bring the best coverage for the people that watch us. And it's not to get cross at anybody at the UK side, because I feel like they're like, we only get given 8 things and like you're number 9 on the list. Sorry.
And the late thing wasn't because they didn't want to give us one. It was because they didn't have many to give out, which is
I can also say from my experience, even working on an Xbox specific magazine in the UK when I was much younger, obviously, there was no support from Microsoft. There was very occasional responses. But there was no, even in an Xbox magazine in print every 3 weeks, there was no invites to anything. And I think partly that is over time, not then, but now they have changed to a US-centric company. So UK or European publications don't get access to Phil, usually. So you did very well to get Phil on the podcast.
Yeah,
twice.
Which I might add was an excellent podcast.
Thank you. We thought we did a good job.
Well, I said this to Jon earlier, but that podcast saw the largest number of spikes of Phil-related content in the year for about 6 months. And you can search for Phil's content, and it kind of pops. And you were another big jump in content from Phil, so everybody referenced it. So must have been good because you got some stories out of it, right?
Yeah, it's funny to us though, because I don't know, like, I had to email a few outlets when they started covering it, because they will do the thing that really bugs me from a web authority point of view. And this is getting and hey chat, we're getting into the weeds here, but this is very much an industry weeds focused episode, I think. So buckle up. But like the Xbox era, and you'll know this, we have a certain web authority that we grow through backlinks and things like that. So when GameSpot or IGN or I don't know, any big site backlinks to us and says Xbox Era did this, it improves our web authority as xboxera.com, right? So it promotes us in Google. The algorithm goes, yay, great stuff. But what I found a lot of outlets did was, even though we wrote up the interview, so I sat there and I transcribed the whole thing and I pulled out all of the really, the good bits that weren't banter and put it in a big long article, they would always backlink to YouTube. And it's like, and I would always end up emailing the author of wherever and be like, hey, appreciate you covering it. Could you please link to our actual site where we've written up the interview for ourselves?
It makes a difference.
It does. And this is where I'm like, that. But like equally, like, we don't always like to backlink to every website. Unless it's an exclusive story, like, I'm not going to backlink to YouTube and give them the backlink, because
where like, you did that podcast, you created the stories, everybody watched the podcast and read the stories. They should credit the story and the podcast, right?
Yeah.
But if they just credit the podcast, great, it's getting you views, brilliant. But it isn't serving the purpose of you writing the article. And if they did a similar thing, they would be straight onto you to say, hey,
yeah, absolutely.
Back me to the story, please.
Because if you gain 1,000 views from links and stuff, cool. That's like 12 cents. It's really nothing in the long run of how YouTube works.
Yeah, but if you
build the website,
unique monthly visitors from that one story, if people are backlink properly to it, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
not just on one day, but over time.
Yep.
Yeah. Like, it's one of the things, like, people, like, we grow our YouTube channel and I guess we're really digging into it now, but we've had open conversations now with the community about rebranding away from Xbox. I've had open conversations with some of the Xbox folks.
And these are like 5 years long conversations of, well, eventually we're going to have to take it's not our brand.
Yeah.
We don't own Xbox.
You should call yourself, like, instead of Xbox Era, maybe something like Reset Era.
I'd rather
reset
die.
our brand.
Yeah, that's the funny thing. I don't want to
No
have era
era.
in the name
Yeah.
anymore. And like, if we're gonna rebrand, but this is the crazy thing. Like, and I know, and I don't mean you any ill will, people listening right now that are like, oh, if you like, someone commented when we had this chat before, if you rebrand from XboxEra, I will unsubscribe. And I'm like, why? Like, is your console warrior methodology so deeply rooted into your being and your psyche that if we're not called Xbox something, our content is immediately trash? Or is it only because we're called Xbox something that our content is actually good?
Yeah,
like that doesn't
we've
make
talked
sense
before. It's an upper level change, so that like this would still be the Xbox Era podcast, and we'd still be focusing on the things we already focus on. It's just when we're writing news and rumors and stuff, it makes it easier to cover the entire industry, because when a big game like Death Stranding 2 comes out, and a very easy 10, 15,000 view article is, when does Death Stranding 2 come out? When is it available to play? And it's like, well, if you're writing that on Xbox Era, people get annoyed because then they think, oh, is it coming to Xbox? And it's like, well, no, it's not. It's just a top level SEO thing. But as far as the actual content goes, still really only 2 of us full time with a bunch of really good volunteers. We can't cover more games than we do. We already are at the limit of that.
But again, that shows you how much good work you do. Having run a fan site earlier, I don't class you as a fan site. I class you as a website, right? I ran.
Appreciate that. There are some folks out there, like there was a tweet thread like, hey, I'm starting up a Discord group for it's editors in chief and co-founders and owners of websites that are in this business to like take tips off each other. I was like, hey, I'm interested. I'd love to learn more, because I am flying by the seat of my pants. I don't know what I'm doing. And it was effectively, he didn't even reply to me. He just said, oh, by the way, this isn't for fan sites. And I knew it was like almost instant straight after I was like, oh, okay.
It's like, this is for sites that do commission work and stuff. And it's like,
there's a very clear distinction between a fan site and a website, right? I started an Xbox fan site. We eventually moved to covering everything because it was easier for search to cover everything, right? We had no full-time members of staff. It was volunteers. One of them just happens to be co-founder of Press Engine with me because he does coding and I couldn't do it without him. He's brilliant. I love him very much. Don't tell him I said that. But the distinction is very clearly this. If you're a fan site, you focus solely on that and you have an opinion about that, but it doesn't really waver away from a positive opinion. What you guys do is have an independent vision and opinion on the Xbox ecosystem.
Yeah.
That makes your website. It doesn't make you a fan site.
And we often tear them a new one. As much as people like to claim we don't. We're just as critical. Yeah, it's an odd one. It is an odd one. But yeah, like it's an interesting industry we're in. And, seeing as we're in the weeds of these sorts of things, it's been an interesting week.
Sorry, everyone.
No, I love the tangents. That's why we love having you on, Gareth. The tangents are good. Before we continue further, I want to dive into a couple of super chats that have been patiently waiting in the wings. First up, I'll deal with this one because it's short and sweet. From the very lovely special Nick, who is on holiday and should be enjoying the sunshine on the coast right now in Queensland. He says, Gareth, get a proper mic.
I did see that, and I do have a £300 microphone, but it's not a USB microphone.
It's XLR.
It's an XLR microphone. I've got to unplug a load of stuff, so I can promise you the next time that the guys allow me on, some point in the future, hopefully, I promise that I will get a proper mic.
I'm on XLR. I have an actual XLR cable going into a Go XLR, which I did not have the money to buy. But old friend and executive producer Korkenstein was nice enough to send to me, so you can have
Fancy. That. He can do annoying voices with it. It's
Hi, Daddy.
No.
Hi.
Stop it. It makes me cross. Next up.
Hold on. Are you wearing shorts? Are you wearing shorts?
I live in Florida. It would be really weird to not. It is so
I'm
goddamn
also
hot.
wearing shorts right now.
In Florida, do you live?
Tampa.
Okay. I'm in Florida in approximately 14 days.
Ooh.
So we're going to have to meet up and have a beer.
I'm in.
Nice. Cool.
Tangent.
That's all right. Tangents are all good. We also have... Sir Gore, prepare your link. You can do this now if you're still watching. Sir Gore has dropped a $5 super chat. Says, I have a clip from Mr. Jez Corden's podcast, the Xbox 2, with lovely Randall 4 yesterday. He'd like to share. May I post the link in chat?
No.
If not, it's at the 3 hours and 9 minutes 10 second mark.
You cannot by default. No links. No links allowed unless. That's why Torn Raptor became a moderator. It's the only way to allow links because I had to turn them off because of all the Russian porn spam bots.
Yeah. Do you want to load up what clip he's talking about here, and we'll have a little listen? Let's see what Sir Girl wants us to dive into as a topic here.
Preface to this: Jez Corden is a lovely guy.
Mm-hmm.
He is
very, very passionate about what he does.
I've been talking to him all day about a thing that we're both playing, and it's always nice to talk to Jez. I think I can get the audio through to you, but it is going to mean you would hear yourself if you talk. So just give me a moment.
No talking from me and Gareth for a minute, but okay, we'll listen to the clip.
Okay. Boop, boop. Get it here. We say 309.10. Do. Pop. Poop. Pop. There's their show. You guys hear that? And I mean you and John. 3, 9, 10. Let me make sure I got that right. 309, 10 mark.
Sir Gore says, hey, I wanted to ask Mr. Corden what he knows about Game Pass dev deals. Do some devs only get money from Microsoft when they release on Game Pass and not before?
So it was a question. I don't know if you heard that. The chat did. It was a question about Game Pass dev deals, and do some devs only get money before or not?
So, sorry, volume.
So did you hear when that was playing?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Beautiful. I figured it out.
We got killer echoes. So
yeah, I turned the echoes off. You're good.
So here's the thing. I know the answer to that question. I'm not allowed to answer it.
Darn.
If you removed one word from that question, you would know the answer.
I don't know what word we're removing. I mean, we've had conversations with developers that have been paid a substantial amount upfront. Like, so if you're trying to ask the question, is it like, hey, you get X amount of players, you get X amount of money? Like, I've heard that there is no hard and fast, this is the only way we do a deal for Game Pass in terms of how it works. That's all I've heard. And the people that we have had
a deal, and then there's engagement modifiers.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, right? So, because I think, like, who was it that was cross and said, boo, Game Pass? Was it the recent one, Revenge of the Savage Planet?
Yeah, he was like, he was hoping that they were going to get more DLC sales, but I would counter that the DLC in Revenge of the Savage Planet is really bad.
Yeah. No, there was someone who made a deal.
Ralph Calantonio. But it wasn't him.
It was a deal for 200,000 players, and then they ended up with like 1 million plus players.
Yeah, Ralph Calantonio for Wild West. Yeah.
Oh,
so, but Wild West was through the publisher, so you never know if he had a say in that or not. Sometimes people just find out that they do from their publisher. But then they did put it back in with Wild West Definitive Edition, so I'm curious if that deal changed at all for that or not.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting actually that Raphael has come up, because that is the Kickstarter of this next particular point. Following
fun Twitter announcement.
Following the horrific, monstrous layoffs that Microsoft went through week before last, where we saw 9,000 employees. That's not 9,000 Xbox employees within that division, but 9,000 total, plus 9,000, over 9,000 across Microsoft, but a significant portion were from within the Xbox divisions across Activision, Bethesda.
I've seen people estimate around 1,000, but I don't think we actually know.
We don't have facts and figures here, right? That is what it is. But he started off, he did a tweet on July 5th. Why is no one talking about the elephant in the room? Cough, cough, Game Pass. And someone asked him, what are your thoughts? And he said, I think Game Pass is an unsustainable model that has been increasingly damaging the industry for a decade, subsidized by Microsoft's infinite money. But at some point, reality has to hit. I don't think Game Pass can coexist with other models. They'll either kill everyone else or give up. Now, like, as someone who covers Xbox, as a platform that covers Xbox, as our community well knows, the Xbox is unsustainable line has been a thing that has persisted for like the last 5 years, I would suggest. And this is where things kind of get a little bit interesting, because this kind of precursor. There was some discussion here. People made a story about this. Xbox was unsustainable, was back in the headlines. And then in steps, perhaps unwittingly, and I mean him no ill will, but he tweeted what he tweeted. And I think probably in hindsight, seeing as he had to clarify, you know, much like I would say, Jez, lovely bloke, should probably stay off Twitter every now and then. Right? Chris String tweeted something else. He followed up to this kind of thread going on here and said, where is it here? I'm trying to find the exact quote. I think like Xbox, I'm paraphrasing because I can't see it here. Xbox effectively told him Game Pass isn't profitable.
No, it wasn't directly. It's not profitable. Yeah,
it was that it didn't include first-party studio costs. So it's profitable.
Yeah, no, he clarified beyond that, but the first tweet was...
No, the first tweet was they do not include first-party costs into Game Pass, which made people go, oh, they're hiding and obfuscating that it's when they say it's profitable, but it's actually not.
And it's like, well, why would they include those costs?
It's a part.
Can I begin with a clarification here, just so everybody kind of understands the point?
Please.
So I should verify that I asked if I could be on the show this week, because I was pretty fucking angry about the whole thing, especially as my Twitter feed was like full of fucking idiots for days. People who have like 17 followers have never posted anything, who just replied. So most of them are bots. But when we think about Xbox as part of Microsoft, or Game Pass as part of Xbox, we have to split the two ideals away from each other. One is Game Pass as a console PC service. The second is the business of Microsoft. They are two different things. So when somebody says, and bearing in mind, I love Chris String. He lives near me. He's a good egg. He wants to do the best possible job. I think the game business is great. I don't know if anyone saw it, by the way. Shout out, brief tangent. He did a great interview with Peter Moore about battling against Sony post Dreamcast and with Xbox and all of that jazz. It's a really good read. When that went live, I messaged him on WhatsApp and I went, timely content, Chris. Because while all this is going on, what Chris tweeted wasn't actually incorrect. Because what he tweeted was Game Pass is not profitable if you include first-party studio costs. But here's the thing. You don't include first-party studio costs in a service. No. A service, Game Pass is its own thing, right? It is a service on a platform, much like Fortnite is a service. Now, it's not a game, it's a service, effectively. It's premium product as a service, which is where a lot of people have moved into. Let's use the example of Concord. $200 million game. Fell on its ass. Was turned down 4 times by Sony before they greenlit it. There's a reason why. $200 million just went away very quickly. Game Pass as a service is great. For the consumer, you can get a bunch of games, whether they're first party, day one, whether they are games expected to do well, or whether they're games that they want you to see. There are games you discover. The tagline, discover your next favorite game, is brilliant, because 3 years ago, I discovered a game that I'd never bought or seen. And
I think a lot of users can attest to that. Like,
that's
one of the beauties of the service.
That works. Now, here's the thing. That's the service, Game Pass as a service. Fine. The model is fine. And I will restate, the model is profitable for Microsoft. Microsoft as a business, Xbox as a business. Each studio, now I will profess, I don't know how Microsoft's internal reporting for financials work, but the way that most of the games industry works is studios have their own P&L, whether they're owned by...
Phil has clarified, I think in an interview, that each studio, much like Xbox has to run its division as a business with its P&L, every studio reporting up has to run their business as a P&L, like here's how much money we're making or not.
So for those who don't know, profit and loss, right?
Yeah.
Every year you have a profit and loss in the balance sheet. And the profit and loss is the thing that you have to make sure you're making money, right? Because then you can take money and be paid for it. However, on this side, on the studio side, why would a studio have to pay for Game Pass? In the same way that, let's choose any game that's been on Game Pass from a third party, they would be paid for the privilege of being on Game Pass. Does anybody think that those studios are not being paid for being on Game Pass on day one? Impossible, as far as I'm concerned. I was taking part in a charity football match for Games 8, I think 2-3 years ago, and I was speaking to the people who do Forza Horizon. What's the developer called?
Playground.
Playground. We are. I used to be a journalist. I remember of that. I would have remembered that if I was a journalist. Playground Games. I was like, how's it going on Game Pass? And they're like, we just did 12 million players. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. They've done far more than that since. It's now one of the top selling games on Steam. It's one of the top selling games on PlayStation because it's a great game. Do you think they didn't get paid for tens of millions of players? I highly doubt that's the case. Again, I don't know, but I would be amazed if Microsoft made the studios pay for a service that's completely separate with a different separate team.
Yeah. Yeah. And if Game Pass was the only way to get their games, then it would matter more. But everything's sold. Everything, a lot of it's now multi-plat in various places. Game Pass is only in the 2, unless you count Cloud as 3, which they might. But like I do think a thing that gets lost a lot in business is to keep things legal. Generally, you have to pay yourself for using your own services. Like Twitch has to pay Amazon to use Amazon Web Services to run Twitch. That has to be a part of their operating costs, even if they don't have to actually send money over, because that would just be pointless. You have to account that into your costs. Like it's not like, oh, it's free for the company to put a game in Game Pass. Like it's not. They still have to treat it like they would anyone else, so that it's not seen as an unfair advantage in the current systems and the way everything works. So
yeah, it's like, to give Chris his due, he did like expand upon that initial kind of like one-liner tweet, which kind of caused the storm, and he said exactly pretty much what you just said. So costs associated with the Game Pass business is fees paid to third parties, marketing, service costs, and by that measure, it's profitable. But what they don't count is the lost revenue that Xbox's first-party studios are seeing as a result of being on the service.
Which is an entirely valid point.
Yep, but it's a nebulous point too, because we don't, you can guesstimate, you could have an educated guess.
Nobody knows. Microsoft can model it, but there's a reason they're multi-platform, right?
Yeah,
and that was a lot, I think, for this week. The last weekend, really, when this was all going off, it was used as what tweets that should have been just asking questions and try and get clarification where possible. Instead, it was just immediately used as ammo to make the point you wanted to make. A lot of people have been talking, well, I don't understand how Game Pass can be sustainable or profitable. So now that this tweet's gone up and they fired people, I'm just going to immediately use that without thinking, without looking into it. This now proves I've been right the whole time. Like, there's
everybody should be taught in schools how to use the internet, right? And this is an example of the modern internet where people think their opinion is more important than the truth. And I don't think my opinion is more important than the truth. What I actually want to provide people, if somebody asks a question or if I want to get involved in a conversation, I will try and give some insight or knowledge based on what I know, not based on what I think. If there's something I think, I'll be very clear. I think, in my opinion, I know Game Pass is profitable. I can't go into detail, but I know. And I think I even had one guy, Nick, from Australia, talking about financials, question me, do I know what do I know what gap adjustments are? I actually do know what they are, but it's got nothing to do with the story that is at the front of this, which is tweet from some guy that used to be at Arcane Studios that left 2 years before they sold to Microsoft and was never part of the internal structure of Microsoft. Tweets he doesn't like Game Pass. It's an opinion, not a fact. He thinks Game Pass is the end of the industry. Well, I'm sorry, but Netflix wasn't the end of the industry for movies and entertainment. It was the start of the industry for it. And everybody was starting to quote, but the leaks from 2023 Activision Blizzard, they weren't Activision Blizzard leaks, they were FTC leaks, first off. And that was old information in 2023. And they're all saying, well, if they said you invested $1 billion over 20 games, that's not true either. Yeah. Context and details matter.
Similar with X Hardware, one of the founders, I think, or one of the original Xbox team, that Laura Fryer did a video. I think Xbox hardware is dead. But okay, right, as media, boom. Well, now that's credible because it's an ex-person that hasn't worked for Microsoft for a long time. They've said it, so now it must be true. And it's like, I mean, if you're an Xbox fan, it probably gets a little bit boring.
You know what it is,
to
John?
just constantly be hammered with your platform sucks.
What this is, and it's been ruined by idiots who used it incorrectly and thought there's like some I hate this bias. That is always what the Xbox tax was when we talked about it, and it's the way news gets couched around each individual platform. Where with like Nintendo, you hand wave it away and you go, man, they're really awful. All right, I'm going to buy all their games. With PlayStation, you're like, man, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to lose access. And with Xbox, it's, I hate Microsoft. Trust me, I do too.
Yeah,
I'm going to actually go at them in the way that I should go at everybody. Like, and Nick's talked about it before. Like Microsoft and Xbox get
a multi-platform game in the last week.
Say again.
And like most of the people that are whinging about this probably don't realize that PlayStation announced a game for Xbox in the last week.
Yeah, I know.
Their own publishing. Like it's what we've been talking about, and people will always take clarification for what we think the industry is from what we have been told and know from people in it as defense of it. But it's like, no, the whole industry has changed, and you can just look at Matt Piscatella and what he's trying to tell you the industry is now. It's not changing. It changed a while ago. And these gigantic ships are very slowly turning, whereas like Microsoft's done most of the turn. PlayStation's like a quarter of the way. And Nintendo's like, we haven't turned it all. We're just going to turn up our prices a bunch and people keep buying stuff. Like it has already changed, but people want to always look at the industry in a way that backs up what they hope to be true. And that's true for every platform. It's just the game coverage part of it generally trends to know PlayStation and Nintendo the most.
Do you, so Nintendo Switch 2, do you remember the last time I was on? The first time I was on? Hopefully this isn't the last time I was ever on. But I talked about online game sharing, where Microsoft announced you can share games digitally. And everybody went, I don't want an always-on online connection for Xbox. I don't want this at all. And they had to rewrite the actual dashboard software because people hated it so much. Nintendo's game sharing for Nintendo Switch 2 is the same thing. And the same people that complained and wrote stories about it were like, this is a great idea. Just 10 years apart.
Yeah, and it's an even worse version because it's not the whole family thing. It's not like Steam. Like Steam at least gives you the family thing, and you get that one license per person that owns it in your group of 5 people, and they can all access it one person at a time per license. The Nintendo one is a very specific, you give this to this person, you can't touch it, only they can play it. And if you're going to do you're online and I'm offline, 2 licenses you get, that only works now if you literally set your Switch offline. Like you can't both play Animal Crossing together with one copy anymore. Like they completely changed the system. But a lot of the Switch 2 launch was 2013 Xbox done worse and covered with 1/100th of the vitriol.
Oh, it was positive more than anything else, right? Like, oh, this is great. Finally.
Yeah. I fully regret buying a Switch 2. I only got it because I was in the US and it happened to be there and it was 80 quid off comparatively to what I pay for here. So I was like, fuck it. But like I've played a bit of Mario Kart and I know I've seen pictures of Nick like completing every fucking thing and hunting around. It's not that great a game for make me want to spend time doing that. It's something I'll bust out and play with my kids, but it is not I'm going to devote my life to finding every secret. Like it's not that fun to play. Apart from in those multiplayer scenarios,
is Tony Hawk's, and because Chris tweeted about it, and I was like, "Is it really that good?" And he was like, "Because I haven't played it yet, right?" And I said, "Is it really that good?" And he went, "It's really great. It's exactly what I wanted." And I was like, "I'm going on holiday soon. I could really do with some games to play on my Switch. Should I get a Switch 2?" And that's the only game that's made me think, "Is that enough for me to spend 450 quid?"
That's the rub, right? Like I have no interest in Tony Hawk. Like that whole era passed me by as a kid. Like I had friends that were into it, but I never bothered. So it has no nostalgia hold over me. But like there's one thing I will say about the Game Pass profitable debate and debacle that was all of the shitstorm. Like people do, like for everyone that loves Game Pass and perhaps even the biggest Xbox hardcore defenders out there, if you think that Microsoft putting games out on PlayStation and other platforms isn't partly driven by the lost sales, the nebulous data that we can't quite quantify, that's why they're doing it. Like that's one of the big reasons they're doing it. Is the platform is what the platform is, and it's profitable, but they want more money. So when a game has reached its tail end, or if it needs to be a day one, or whatever the studio is capable of, they're going to push for a multi-platform release because to their hardcore user base, like what was the last number we heard for Game Pass? 35 million, right? And I don't know what the last number we heard for Xbox Series consoles was. 40 something? I don't know. Okay, we've saturated that group. That group is not going to go anywhere. They're not going to throw away all their thousands of games that they own out of spite, no matter really what we do at this point.
As long as the offering is still good. So it doesn't matter if we start offering goods other places. As long as we still keep serving our customers the way we have, it should be fine. But,
and day one for Game Pass, like it's the other aspect of the industry that really blows my mind is when I see genuine pundits that follow this industry and they say, Xbox hasn't released any game. I'm like, motherfucker, what? Like
last weekend brought out
this year alone.
It brought out all the old arguments because it's been people who don't pay attention at all, don't know what the platform actually is, saw bad news, and were like, this validates every take I've had for a decade.
And I think that the different thing that's happened now to the Xbox audience is for us, like, absolutely, we are conditioned to, if we see a really cool game, we're like, Game Pass? Because
no one has
there
any
are
money.
many reasons. No one has any money because the economy's fucked. But two, there is no more of this, hey, buddy, like Borderlands 4 is coming out, right? I want to play Borderlands 4. As a member of the press, I will hopefully get hold of code at the time being. If 2K are kind enough to give us more than one, right? Great. But if not, I've got to have the conversation and persuade a certain group of people, like, can everyone buy the game? Whereas with Game Pass, that argument, and if you're in the Xbox ecosystem and you've got friends in that system, that argument, that conversation about, oh, is it worth, should we spend the money together, is gone. Because, like, it's instant.
It's on Game Pass.
Yeah. Oh, great. We can all play.
Yeah, it's on Game Pass. Where you go?
And as a kid, like, I look at my kid now and he's like, oh, I love that, because when he goes to school and I say, mate, this game's coming out, and he tells his mates and they've all got Game Pass and they will jump on, and great. But that's changed how, like, it has for me. I'm not going to speak for everyone. And chat, let us know if you disagree. But when I think about games coming to the platform, I no longer just focus on what are Microsoft making. I look at what my day one Game Pass releases are, which is why they're third-party deals with the cool curated indies to the really cool AAA or near AAA third-party releases. When they come, they count for me. So it always makes me laugh a little bit when people say, oh, Microsoft doesn't have anything like this year. Well, because I'm like, I've been playing loads because this is the ecosystem I'm in. And thousands of games release all the time. But it's a strange way of couching your
you hit on the business side of it accidentally there, right? And maybe not accidentally, but let's make it physical, because we're all sat here doing nothing, right? Hands up, who thinks how much money Xbox makes from one game is important? Who thinks how much money Xbox makes from average revenue per user is important?
Yeah.
So Microsoft, like, I'm presuming it will look at all the financials of Game Pass, but it feeds into the average revenue per user. And the majority of companies think this way at the top end of the market, is how much money can I get from each user? And your description there, John, of I want to play this game with my mates. Is it on Game Pass? Brilliant. Everybody jump in. It's the only reason that the jump in tagline that Microsoft have tried to use for 20 years actually works, because you can just jump in.
Yeah.
If it's not on Game Pass, I can tell you the only other places that I buy games are Nintendo eShop, Steam, and PlayStation Store. And occasionally CD Keys when there's a great deal, right? But the importance here is it keeps Xbox players in the ecosystem, and they buy games from the platform they're playing on.
Yeah.
So it's always going to increase the revenue per user. And at some level, Microsoft CFO, who a lot of people probably don't like at the minute, is focused on average revenue per user. They're also focused on Azure units, which is a big thing on that side of the business with AI and all that kind of stuff. But that's where the two models come together. Is it on Game Pass? Yeah, let's play it tonight.
Yeah.
You could never do that before, and that's a huge benefit. But it also, you're entirely right, causes a problem. And that problem is the expectation of it being on Game Pass.
Yeah.
And then once you know it isn't, you go, oh, how much is it going to be?
Yeah.
$80, £70, and you go, I think twice.
Yeah,
Your value perception is lower.
That's changed.
Game Pass.
Yeah,
And it changed.
absolutely.
It
And that's
changed
something-
massively for people on PC because of Steam sales, and that's always something they're fighting against. Like the whole, I just wait. I wait a month. I wait 2 months. The next Assassin's Creed game's half off. Like, it's just hit the industry real hard, especially because it was always so front heavy on the main point of your sales, and then all the black hole games hit, and it just became impossible to get people to pay attention to even look at it, especially in the younger generation. Like Matt Piscatella talking about how people under 20 are spending less than ever because they're just in the free-to-play stuff, and they don't have to constantly buy new things in there. If they've already got their Chun-Li skin like Nick, they still might buy and hoard some more, but it's not nearly as much as if you're jumping from game to game.
I think you've just touched upon like the next big topic, right? Is what Matt Piscatella has been saying. Like, we saw the Circana results come out this month for May, and again, Microsoft's multi-platform releases means that I think they've got 5 games in the top 8 again on PlayStation.
Yeah.
Great. In terms of their and bear in mind, when I say great for them from a business perspective, I don't give 2 shits as a consumer.
Yeah, the only help for us is that it means they're making more money and they keep doing more investment in gaming.
Reinvesting back into a consumer's
They're the
ecosystem.
biggest publisher in the world, and it's showing.
Yeah.
That isn't me. So I'm a fanboy when it comes to Xbox. I prefer the controller to the PlayStation controller. When it comes to Switch, there are certain games I will play on Switch and nowhere else. Brilliant, because it's that kind of machine. But I think the importance here is Microsoft is the world's largest publisher because it's acquired that position over time.
Yeah.
And they're not just investing in third-party content, they are investing in first-party content. And part of me, like, we know how many studios they've still got, horrible times, right? We know how many they've still got. We know the games that they're working on, or we don't know what they're working on. So they've got a massive content.
Matt Vucci said, like, in this horribly couched email of, we're shutting down Perfect Dark and Everwild and this Project Blackbird and the
Other unannounced
But we
games.
have got 40 projects, unannounced projects.
Over 40.
Which is an insane number. That's all great, right? But what Matt said, particularly in Circana, was that there's 2 things. One, he said that sub-services are increasing, which shows that there is value being seen from us consumers in terms of like what subscription services bring. And 2, the biggest thing that I think that the industry just doesn't talk about enough, I think and I'm paraphrasing, I have got the tweet in front of me, but effectively it was 50 or over 50% of all of the available gaming hours for anybody to play video games in their lives is being sucked up by the Fortnites, the Apex Legends, the free-to-play games of the world, right?
Yeah.
And that was not a thing 8 years ago, 10 years ago, whenever that didn't exist, right? It wasn't as prevalent, and now it is. So when you have studios investing 200, 300 million into a single-player game that is one and done, and they're charging 80 quid for it, it's why we are seeing remasters and remakes of known, quantifiable, popular IP repeatedly, because it is almost a sure bet versus new IP. The woke brigade are after it. It's caused a problem. It hasn't sold well. Great. Now we've got to shut the studio down. And that's the world we're living in now. And like, people just don't seem to get it. That's just me.
Yeah, the
What
full
do you
quote,
think about that?
The top 10 live service games sucking nearly half of all gaming hours from the PlayStation and Xbox ecosystems before any other game can even get a taste is a far bigger threat than the sub model, in my opinion. But do I know? Because he was replying to someone like some random.
100% agree. So to paraphrase our friend Chris, not paraphrase our friend, to reference our friend Chris Drake. I literally said that to Chris 2 weeks ago. I'm very worried about the games that my children play and what they're going to miss out on, because my kids are 14, 11, and 9. They spend half their time on YouTube. I try and get them off it, but it's almost impossible. And when they play games, they're on Roblox,
Yeah.
or they're on Fortnite, or they're on
Minecraft,
Rocket League, or Minecraft, because their friends are there.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know what? All of them play on Xbox. They're Roblox on Xbox, they're Rocket League on Xbox, because in my town, all the kids have got Xboxes because they're at the right age of 11. My 11-year-old as an example. When their kids wanted a console, they got an Xbox because they were sold on the Game Pass idea as parents. I don't need to spend as much money if I do this. So they can play the Roblox games they want. They can play Fortnite they want. They can play Rocket League. And they get free games every month if we pay 15 quid a month.
Yeah.
Great. So in a way, it's kind of helpful for Microsoft, and in a way, it isn't. I will be. I'll be totally honest about that. But I think as that group ages up to become the 16 to 24 in 10 years or 7 years onwards, the industry is going to face a bigger problem, because people are not going to spend money on games because they're accustomed to having not done it for all of their gaming life.
Yeah.
That's going to be, and hopefully I can sell up and retire by then, because then it won't be a problem for me, but it will be a problem for the industry.
Yep.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that, like, I look at my son now, and much like with movies, right? If you think about modern kids' movies, they're so flashy, but so light on content and depth. And like, maybe that's just my opinion, but that's certainly my impression.
There's always been a mix, but there's so much more now.
There's an occasional great one, but a lot of it is this regurgitable dross and noise, especially kids' cartoons, right? Which is why Bluey, so for example, is so refreshing, because
Never seen it.
Substance. That's fine. There's no accounting for taste, but
I'm old.
I feel like just like with my son, like he watches movies and stuff, but we have this like little tradition now where if we've got a weekend with Dad and Harriet's gone to bed because he's a little bit older than his sister, I'll be like, all right, mate, it's Friday night. I'm going to show you a movie.
Emmanuel in
I
space.
will put a movie from my childhood, right? Where back when movies like were big deals.
Ladies Chatterley's lover.
Yeah, but he got to see Terminator 2 for the first time, and his mind was just unlike I've seen him with other things where he just gets distracted and just looks away. But he was, because his phone was switched off, his tablet was turned off, they were taken away. I said, you're not allowed to talk. You've got to watch the movie. If you want to do that and you want to stay up late, that's the deal. And there's popcorn.
How old's your son?
He's 11. So he sat and watched Terminator 2, and he was like, this is the most amazing film I've ever seen. Oh my God. So we're doing Aliens next to kind of like bring him into that. But like, I feel the same with games. I do the same thing with games. He's like, oh, I'm bored. Like proper Kevin, Harry Enfield style, like teenager. I'm like, okay, well, you've got an Xbox with every game I own on it, because he's my home Xbox. So he's got like everything I own. I was like, what do you mean you're bored? And he's like, oh, there's nothing to play. I'm like, okay.
What about all these games that have got great stories that you've not even explored yet?
Getting him to go beyond that surface level, Roblox, follow a guide, chase someone around, dross.
Is your son
per second.
Nick?
Unfortunately, we are breeding a generation of Nicks out there, mate. Loads of them. Growing up to be man children in every respect. But that is a huge, like, I don't know what anyone else's experiences are with their kids, but getting them to come away from the things that they know and try these new things. The last one that really hooked him, Hi-Fi Rush, and he was so gutted when the studio was closed. When I got to tell him the studio was saved by Krafton. We'll get into that later. So like, I feel like there is a huge mindset change. And, you know, Microsoft, rightly or wrongly, they're very data driven as a company, and we've seen that with the launch of the Xbox One, where they looked at the data and made bad calls in terms of how they would present things, thinking that was the right thing to do.
Like they have the right info, they know where things are going, but boy, do they mess up getting there.
Yeah.
Can we get a slow clap for Don Matrick?
Well done, Don.
Probably a really nice dude.
I'd love to chat to him about it. Like, but he's very much like, no, I ain't talking to anybody.
He's unbelievably wealthy after getting a golden parachute a couple times.
His
Yeah, I
wife's
bet.
even more unbelievably wealthy. He used to get a plane to the office at Microsoft every day, a private plane, which is ridiculous.
That is insane to me. But that is the industry that,
deserves that.
is
Sorry.
forming. It's all right. It's the industry that's forming in front of us, and I think the choices that Microsoft are making now to kind of be where this new group of players is going to be, like the average age of a gamer like 10 years ago was 35, and I only feel like that's going to go up. And at some point we will age out. Like, I still plan to be playing games when I'm in an old folks home if I can, but like that's the reality. Consoles, all of this platform loyalty, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in the long run.
Yeah, my
There are
kids
no
don't
platforms.
care at all about what platform they're using outside of my youngest really likes Game Pass. Lets them try out tons of different things that they're really into. The older is just like, I've got a couple of games I like playing with my friends. It doesn't matter where we're playing them. He wants to get a nice PC because they'll get better frame rates. Like, that's about it. And I told him, well, maybe he also doesn't know how to make or build PCs. And he bought a really shitty pre-built that I told him not to, and he's hated it. But I'm like, hey, the next generation of Xbox probably just going to end up being a console / PC. And he's very interested in that. It's a weird,
one of the
weird
deals
state of things.
One of the deals I've had to make with my son, because his SAT results came out before he goes to secondary school in September, and he is desperate for a laptop that can run Minecraft Java Edition, right? Because he can't get that on his Xbox, because he wants to mod and go and do all the crazy stuff he sees his favorite YouTubers do, and also like he wants it to learn how to actually. And I feel like it's an important life skill. Like, there's a lot of kids nowadays, their only interaction with technology is through touch, and I'm like, they were all crowded around. He had his mates around for a birthday party, like back in April, and they were like, "Oh, they're coming to see the office and see cool games and technology." And I was typing, and they were like, "Whoa, you're so fast at typing!" And I know it's taught in schools, but most kids, when they go home, they just don't touch it. They just get a tablet out and like learning how to type, learning how to do things.
The moment they stop playing a game, because most kids go home and play games, right? The moment they go play a game, they just go. That's it. Yeah. The moment the screen in front of him is gone, I need another one.
Yeah. Or worse, I catch him. He's got his phone, YouTube propped up, and he's just going through reels while playing.
While playing,
what are you doing?
Television.
It blows my, I mean,
parents kind of de-stressing episode today. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Sorry, young people. All right, deal with it. So look, like nutshell, Game Pass is still sustainable.
Growing for
profitable.
3 months in a row, has been growing pretty consistently since Call of Duty went in it. Had one of its biggest growth periods in May. May was delayed because now they aggregate a bunch of different PC storefronts in, so it's even better info and not just Steam. So we're going to get June in, I think, 8 days or so, or something like that. It might have been a little more. I think it was around the 20th-ish.
We should all know that Microsoft and Sony are both launching a console probably in 2027 now, because they're going to eke out as much as they can. Generations used to be 5 years on average, but they're both going to launch a console. Whether people like it or not, Microsoft will launch a console. Whether they believe they won't or not, they will launch a console, and they will be so similar because there is no technological differentiation. If you look at there's somebody that used to work at PlayStation. I'm not going to name names, but they've given a couple of interviews, and I've seen them talk about it in person. The machines are so similar, they should just publish on each other's platforms anyway. And that was from a former PlayStation executive. They are going to launch more consoles. They're going to keep investing in games. Microsoft is going to keep investing in Game Pass. PlayStation is still going to invest in PlayStation Plus. They're going to, at some point, PlayStation will have to release more than one game a year. And I guarantee you that'll be in 2027. There'll be 4 or 5. And then the next year there'll be 4 or 5. Because there's a reason they've slowed down the games that they're putting out. Microsoft won't. And I think there's a differentiator there. They will keep having 6 to 12 games a year because they've got that content pipeline.
Yeah. I forget who we heard it from, but it's like, why are so many things coming out? And it's, the reason why they have 3 things in October. It's because they have so much coming so soon. They can't delay anything. They have to actually get things out because they just have the good problem where it's like it's almost too much now on their side.
Yeah, I remember in, I want to say GDC, San Francisco, a unnamed Microsoft person hilariously was like, we've got so much coming out this year that you don't even know about like that. And I was like, okay.
It was before we heard all the other things that were coming.
Yeah.
Like Keeper.
This was
and,
now we know a lot of it. But I'm curious, though, on your take on next-gen hardware, right? Like Microsoft have come out, they've shown off this Asus Xbox Ally X and Xbox Ally. This is a first tentative step into a handheld Xbox of sorts, but it's not really, because it's not going to play on native library natively on the device. It's going to be able to do that via cloud streaming or remote streaming or whatever the case may be, but it's a PC handheld. Fast forward, we've got 2026. They've Phil teased at the end of the showcase. We've got Forza Horizon 6. We've got a new Halo. I'll touch on Halo in a minute. We've got Gears of War E-Day, and we've got Fable, all coming in 2026. Do you feel it would be beneficial for them to try and aim for hardware at that point, or do you suspect it's going to be like very much like the Project Scorpio or the first Xbox Series reveal at the Game Awards, where they show it and talk about it in 2026 for a release in 2027? What's your take?
Part of me hopes they release it in 2026. From a business perspective, and as an Xbox fan, it will pain me to say this. Sony have got everything right.
Yep.
Since PS4. Microsoft hasn't. It's got the ideas right, but the execution wrong. And the only time that Microsoft ever launched first, they won that generation. So were they able to? And here's the thing: the generation Microsoft, and I'm gonna come backwards and forwards for a second.
That's okay.
Sarah Bond said this will be the largest generational leap you've ever seen.
Well, she said technological leap.
Technological, okay.
Yeah, rather than generational. I was like, oh, interesting. Okay.
Moore's law does not allow us to take a huge technical leap. So for those that don't know Moore's law is that you can consistently over time and over it's late in the UK. I'm going to pretend I remembered that word.
Refinement.
Yeah, refinement, something similar to that. Transistors become smaller. You can fit more transistors on the same board for less cost. You're able to do more with that. So more CPU, compute units, whatever, in the same space for a similar price. Moore's law means that that's not really possible. We've kind of reached the end of that at this point. So the technological jump, or let's say the hardware jump, is not going to be as significant. I don't think, and this is where if I was Microsoft or Sony, I would be thinking about this very carefully, because we've talked about this once. There is a bunch of kids who are used to not paying for games, who play games like Fortnite and Roblox and Rocket League. Are they some of the best looking games on the planet? No.
Nope.
Are they some of the most technologically brilliant games on the planet? No. They're good games. And I think if Microsoft was serious about winning hardware, they would launch in 26.
Yeah, I think it would be smart of them to do so. But like on your point, Jesse and I played Peak yesterday, a tiny little game jam thing that the developers of Another Crab's Treasure have thrown out on Steam for like, what was it? It's like £6.
They started making it in February and released it like a month or two ago, and it now has sold 5 million copies.
5 million units.
5
and
million.
We played it and we're like, this is great. It's social, it's funny, it's not gorgeous, it's silly, but it's got a little hook and it's really fun.
How long ago did it come out? Was it a month?
I think roughly. Let me
Something
look.
like that.
How much does it sell for?
It's like £6, I think, or 16 maybe at the most. I think it's under a tenner.
So I only asked because I knew about Peak, but I haven't looked into it. But that means that in the next 12 months, they're probably going to sell around 15 to 20 million units.
It's mad.
It's $7, $8 US. So like £6.
Yeah, so it's about £6.
And it's been out for just under 1 month.
So for those that are not interested in the numbers and how much money they make, all that effectively means is these developers never have to make another game for the rest of their lives. Those sales and that profit is enough for them to go, we could just keep working on this. This could become a thing where we release content and updates, or we could just go, we're going to make a second one and it won't sell nearly the same as the first. But the amount they've made from that in 1 month allows them to make different life choices.
Yeah,
and the life choice I would make would be, I'm going to take all that money when Steam pays it to me, and then I'm going to go and live in a hut in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah. It's to your point, right? Like, we think about these, games having the best animations and the best graphics. And don't get me wrong, graphics have a place, but gameplay, in many ways, is always going to be king. And like some of the biggest games that have done well have been on PC first, have been on Steam, and are not all bells and whistles, highest end AAA fare. Mm-hmm. Schedule 1, Peak, other things like that. They come out. For
example, Ready or Not had so many problems at launch, and it's not the best looking game, but they sold millions of it.
Yeah.
So now they're doing the console launch.
Yeah. On the 15th, I'm hoping to get code for it, but it's looking like it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Who's working on it?
I think it was it through Press Engine?
I know it's on Press Engine. I can't remember.
I requested it there. I don't think we got a code yet.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah, fun times.
I love in this industry. Sorry.
Yeah. But yeah, like I often think though, like, and I look towards that next generation, and this is where I think Microsoft are possibly going to do something smart here. I think about the PlayStation 6, and I think if it's just a PlayStation 6, and I don't mean that in a fanboy way. If it's the new PlayStation, it plays things faster and better. Ta-da! Cool. And I'm sure PlayStation fans will love it, right? But like,
and there are lots of them.
Games looked good enough like 10 years ago.
The business side of it is they'll keep who they have, but it's not a way to gain people, which is their main thing they're focused on now, which is gaining more
That's
customers.
why they've invested in people like Bungie and companies that are making live service games and those that have the opportunity to expand the audience.
Yeah, I think their numbers were
from my point of view.
You go, then I'll go.
It's the PS5. Even now, I think they only just announced that the PS4, like the PS5, has overtaken the PS4 in terms of
over half of the monthly active users.
So they launched in 2020. It's 2025, and for like 4.5 of those 5 years that it's been out, the majority of their player base was still on PS4, and it sold 80 million units. Right? Great.
Brilliant.
When it comes to PlayStation 6, we're talking 2 years' time. Let's say 2027, right? Or if that's when they're aiming. What do they expect to happen? And I ask this from a very broad perspective.
Console, you actually want to continue to sell this one because they make money from it. The moment they make a new console, they're making a loss or tiny profit.
And if they make a game exclusive, and the economy's bad, like there are all these things for them to consider. And then I look at Microsoft's, and we don't know the full details, right? But we hear the talk of opening it up and having all these different digital stores on there and allowing gamers to just basically do whatever they want. And I see a lot of folks being like, well, that doesn't make any sense. You're giving up their cut that they make on the Microsoft store. And I'm like, they're building a platform. They still get 70% of the funds from here, and here.
On the Microsoft store, they get 12%. And I do think that is a main reason why people will start to support it more, especially as Jez reported that they were doing away with the 2 dev environments, just having the Windows dev environment. Essentially, you get a PC version. That PC version can go on the Microsoft store, go on Steam, it can go on GOG, it can go on Epic, and it can go on the Xbox version. Like, I think removing a lot of friction will help a lot in just getting more and more. They've never had better third-party support.
Play anywhere.
Yep.
And forgive me for saying this, but what a great idea. 20 years ago, you want to lock people into that console. You want people to, as much as possible, stay on this console, buy physical media to play on that console, because you control the entire economy of that console. with online, and you have to think about this, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo will have known for 10 years that the future of consoles would be connected online crossplay, whether they liked it or not. But the next evolution of that is kind of what Microsoft think about with Play Anywhere, which is how do we let people play the games that they want anywhere they want? And if that means we allow them to do that, maybe they'll buy them with us. Like, that's not a difficult jump to make. And if somebody says, like, as an example, I was thinking of Tony Hawk's. Why would I buy Tony Hawk's on Switch when I can play it on an Xbox or on a PC, but I can't play it on the Switch?
Yeah, like I've not understood the hoo-haring over all of these magical, really late Switch ports of other games, because I'm like, handhelds are great. Don't get me wrong, I love my Ally, right? But I don't love playing triple gay games on my Ally unless I have
Triple
to.
gay? Oh my god!
I was going to say, you just invented a new type of
It's Southend Pride Week, all right? Like,
Yeah, I am from
but, like,
Massachusetts, aka the most gay-friendly state in all America. I saw.
There you go. But like, I don't love playing big games on a handheld because they're really, like, the devices aren't really aware. The UI is really tiny. Like, it's not great, and the battery just goes. Handhelds are for quick.
And that's been one of the sad
So-
things about the Switch too, is the battery life is worse than the Switch one.
Exactly. Like, okay, you got Tony Hawk's for Switch. Enjoy the 45 minutes to an hour of play you might get. You know what I mean? Like, how is that helpful? Whereas I think about that ecosystem of, like, I can play all those indies there, or I can stream to save battery life, and that makes sense in a remote play environment if I'm in bed or whatever. Like, there's all of these different use cases for different things, and like, I think about their broader ecosystem, and it's like, okay, AMD are making chips. OEMs can buy these chips. They'll be secure. They'll be able to run Xbox native games, including like OG Xbox 360, blah, blah, blah. What's to stop LG or Samsung putting, the handheld version of that chipset into the back of a fucking TV? Off we go. That's an Xbox. What's to stop a hotel chain putting all of them in the room, and you just have a pad and you can just fucking connect and you can just play and your library follows you? We're not living in 2005 anymore. We're 20 years on. Like, I want everything to be connected to my stuff, and I can take it wherever I want. And like, the people that try and argue against this reality, in my opinion, in every other facet of their lives, is bizarre to me. I look forward to this as an ecosystem change, because those big breakout hits that we just talked about, the schedule ones, the peaks, Xbox will be the platform. Oh yeah, you can play that there from a cheaper box perspective. I can play that there because this is going to run that because it can. Like, that is a huge change.
You've hit on a problem that I asked myself over the last week. I'm like, I am going to America on holiday. My wife and kids have never been to America, so I'm going to show them America, but I'm taking them places that I've not been, except Las Vegas. We're going to Las Vegas for a couple of days so they can do some fun stuff. And then we're going to Florida, and I'll be there for 10 days, and it's going to be great fun. But my thought was, what am I going to play while I'm there? No, I don't have a ROG Ally because I never invested in it. I was like, there's never enough for me to get. The ROG Ally X seems interesting, but it's expensive. Is it enough for me to go for it? No. I have a Nintendo Switch. So my question was, like, should I get a Switch 2? Again, for the second time, do I think about getting a Switch 2? And the answer was no. Because I can just buy a copy of FC25 and 2 wireless controllers from some company I've never heard of to take that with me on holiday. And it's cost me about £60 or $75. And I know that I've got my laptop for Netflix, and I've got stuff that me and the kids can play while I'm away. If I could do Play Anywhere and just take a couple of controllers and just turn on the TV and log in, I wouldn't have spent that money. I've just gone, I'm going to take these 2 controllers.
Yeah. It's an interesting possible future, and it really all just comes down to whether Microsoft can pull this off with all of their crazy mixed messaging. And I'm sure we'll get into some of that in a bit. There is some community questions which we're going to dive into, but we're going to take a moment to tell you about a game that's very close to our hearts that everybody should probably play and enjoy as soon as humanly possible. Let's go take a look at that, and we'll be back in a minute once we've heard from our sponsors.
This is Console Wars, the card game.
Featuring more famous video games than you can shake a stick at, Console Wars finally allows you to win a war you've been fighting and probably losing on the internet your entire life. Quit being a keyboard warrior with the warm embrace of anonymity to protect you. Now you and your friends can fight on the front lines, battling for incredible franchises, exclusivity, and eventual victory. Collect some of the most famous video game franchises of all time. Protect them with loyal and frighteningly dedicated fans. Brave the volatile video game industry and claim the ultimate victory in the console wars. Your favorite video game making mega corporation needs you. Enlist today. Head to consolewarsgame.com. Pick up a copy of Console Wars the card game, outshine your rivals, and prove that your platform reigns supreme. Out now. Welcome back. Thank you to our sponsors for that wonderful advertisement. I'm sure you're not all really bored of that by now. Friendly reminder, Console Wars the card game is out on Amazon in the US and in the UK, and you can get it. And you probably should. It's quite good fun. Have you managed to have a game yet, Gareth? Have you played it at home yet with your copy?
My family really like it. I thought it would be a bit too. So just to assure everybody, I didn't get a free copy. I actually backed it on Kickstarter.
He did back it on Kickstarter.
And my family thought it was great fun. And I won, so I was happy.
Congrats. You are the winner of the Console Wars. There's a couple of other bits to dive into today. We've talked some quite heavy stuff, very industry focused. So a couple of little bits. There was a Sea of Thieves Direct this week, right? Which dived into a little bit about what they're doing and what they're planning. It's an interesting one. I'm not sure how quickly it was thrown together post the cancellation of Everwild, and obviously some reported job losses at Rare via VGC, aka Greg Miles and executive producer Louise O'Connor leaving the studio. However, the Sea of Thieves team got together. They chatted through their vision for the game. There's some interesting bits and pieces if you're a long-term Sea of Thieves fan like I am. But there's nothing that's been announced that's made me want to come back after. And I looked at my stats because I wrote a Sea of Thieves. I want Sea of Thieves 2. I wrote an article about it. There's an opinion piece up. If you want to give the video a watch, Predrag made a really fun Sea of Thieves 2 logo with the Kraken tentacle making the 2, which I thought was super cool. But yeah, there's the interesting thing is they're doing custom servers. So there is a bit of me that's like, could XboxEra pay for a custom Sea of Thieves server so we could do some hilarious
or just ask them
live
for
streams
one.
like the server against me and my crew, like the whole server, everyone getting a ship you're on to take us out, and we'll try and survive. That could be interesting and fun. Maybe we'll do something like that. But beyond that, the problems I have with Sea of Thieves at this point, and I love the game, I want to make that super clear. It's one of my favorite games of all time. It was certainly my favorite of last generation. Is that the foundations that are set now are so repeated throughout the bones of the game that I can't play it anymore, because every new content that comes out is really just the same thing with a different wrapper on. And I wished for something more. I have no idea why Ubisoft spent 10 years making Skull and Bones when they could have made a deep, persistent pirate RPG with awesome naval combat like they had in Black Flag. But we are getting a Black Flag remake. But if, like me, you think you want to see a Sea of Thieves 2, have a watch. Let me know if you agree. What about you guys? I know, Jesse, you've dabbled in Sea of Thieves, but you're not a huge fan. Gareth,
I played a fair amount, not a ton.
So you're not alone in your thoughts, John. I have a friend, Phil, who's the co-founder of Press Engine. He's a huge Sea of Thieves fan. He's on Twitch, and that's all he plays on Twitch, I believe. I don't watch it because I see enough of it work. But he was at a Sea of Thieves convention today, I think. I think his wife posted on Facebook, and there was like
awesome
PS Fest or something like that. And I actually spoke to him about the stuff that was at Summer Games Fest. And I said, what do you think? Because I thought it was underwhelming. We should criticize Microsoft where we can. Not Rare specifically. Like, we should criticize the strategy of what they're doing if we don't think it's right.
Yeah.
And he said pretty much the same as you, which was it feels like it's the same content repackaged. And that's a worry. And the reason I say that is custom servers is a way to monetize the game further. It isn't a way to add anything to the game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So that tells me one of two things. Either their audience is now saturated and set at a level where it isn't really going to grow, or, and maybe as well as, we need to monetize that audience to continue to make it a reason to keep going. Now, I know for a fact that Sea of Thieves is one of the most popular Microsoft games ever made, both with the audience and the players that they have had in the past. I don't know what it is at the minute, but over time, things change. Sometimes they die. I wouldn't have a problem with the Sea of Thieves 2 for a new console. But we probably have to stop thinking about it like, what do they need for the next console launch? They maybe have to think about, what do we need for the next year or the next cycle that isn't necessarily console related. But I think Sea of Thieves has never done anything that's made me want to play it. And I mean that in the most wonderful way, because I have played Sea of Thieves, right? I've got friends who I've only played on Sea of Thieves, and I can see it being super fun, but I can also see it being the same super fun every time I play it. And for a man that has, like, where you guys review games, I sit and say you are acceptable to come on Press Engine. Like I work outside work so much that my wife hates it so much. But instead of playing games, I will do things like, let's make sure that contact space is like completely 100% wonderful.
Yeah.
And I will sit here and go through that stuff just to try and go, can I make it better? That kind of thing. So the time I have for gaming is less than it was a few years ago. And what that means is something has to impact me. And although I thought, oh, that was a fun 35 minutes playing with a guy I haven't spoken to in 7 years, it was great. Did I want to do it the following day? Fuck no.
Yeah. I think that is one of the biggest hurdles Sea of Thieves had. And unfortunately, in my opinion, they've gone so far in its design now, in some of the systems that they've now built in to remove that, is that the game never valued your time. Like, you would log on, you would have to prep, you would have to resource hunt, and that was the first 45 minutes before you actually set sail, right? Going around the island that you spawned on, getting all the barrels, filling it with your ship, and you go out and you find some stuff. And if you lost that all in an instant, it was infuriating. But if you could maintain and stay alive, and we played so much in the early days, we ground that game down. I have over 912 hours in Sea of Thieves between its launch in 2018 to late 2021, 2022. I came back for some of the single player stuff. Their Shores of Gold expansion, the story-driven stuff was incredible. And the moments I've had in Sea of Thieves are some of the best I've had in any game, multiplayer-wise, ever. But the game did not respect my time. I have memories of doing like these epic 5-hour sessions where we've got all this loot, and then to have to manually go and cache each individual item, and that is picking each item up. You can only carry one, carrying it to the place, depositing it, go back to the ship, pick up the next one. We would have a hold after 5-6 hours of play of hundreds of items, and I would remember falling asleep with the pad in my hand, doing that repeated loop to log out safely so that we'd actually cached everything in. And now they've made it like you can just press a button and everyone just comes and collects all your shit. And you can just teleport to the destination for the first sale. And it's like, I understand why they've done it, but it's also lost a lot of the charm that it had for me, in that you didn't know what was going to happen on that journey. And I look at Sea of Thieves 2 and I think, I admire their design goals of this no progression to the player. Everyone has the same tools. It's now tools, not rules. You go in, if you've just started, the only thing I have over you is I have 4 years of experience of knowing every island and da-da-da. But we are the same power. We have the same level. And I like that.
One of the best ideas that Microsoft ever had might be an idea that would entice me into Sea of Thieves, right? But I think they wouldn't do it because it is tools rather than rules. And that is Fable 2. Everyone remember Fable 2 where they had houses and you could set the rent of those houses. You can go away for a year and come back and you've got so much money because the game runs in real time and calculates that rent and brings it in. If they put an economy into Sea of Thieves, they would presented with an opportunity and a challenge. The opportunity is people then have this continuous game where they've got something to aim for. and they could have factions that have different areas of the game world, and they could build an economy. Challenge with that is, what is the phrase? Money laundering is a big issue. Have economies, cheating, that kind of stuff. So as much as I would like that, I don't think they would ever do it because it creates more problems than it solves, despite it would mean a big increase.
Yeah, I mean, I just have a ton of design ideas for things I'd like to see, right? Like I talk about, like, keep the lack of progression, traditional progression in terms of I'm more powerful than you, but why can't I, if I've gone out and done this cool quest and this really hard thing and I've achieved this in the world, why can't I armor my ship and sacrifice speed for survivability? Why can't I change the cannon types? You know, like I'd love that, to have that meaning, like, oh shit, look at those guys, they've got that, oh my god, like we need to run. And that instead of like, oh, they're friends. And by making things like the friendlier seas and the custom service, you're taking people away from the magic of the original PvP world. I don't know. I could wax lyrical,
You
but
love
the bigger point,
extraction games, and you should drive more of them.
I definitely don't love all extraction games, but I do love Sea of Thieves. But the bigger point I was making is, with Everwild cancelled, what does Rare do now? And, you know, Greg Mayles has always been reportedly kind of one of those leaders that always wanted to make something new. And it seems like Everwild's now not going to be that thing. Do we think now that Rare in this world are like, okay, well, we've got a development team. Not everyone at Rare is working on Sea of Thieves. Do we now start entertaining the ideas for doing a Banjo-Kazooie remake or a Viva Pinata relaunch and having it be on mobile and all of this stuff? Because if you think of Viva Pinata as a game, it was a little bit ahead of its time, and it would have done fantastically on a mobile device as a garden you could take anywhere with you and maintain your plants and all of that sort of stuff. It's very cozy. And you look at the success of something like Animal Crossing, and I'm like, what's Rare going to do? And like, there's a part of me that selfishly wants a bigger, better, deeper Sea of Thieves. But like, I'm curious, do you guys think Rare should entertain like knocking out a quick few nostalgic remakes for fans to bring some cash through the door? Like, is that worth it?
I'm going to let other people answer for a minute instead of me talking. Go on.
I mean, I definitely think it's something worth overseeing again, like they do with Battletoads. Like, if you don't do it yourself all the way, but you work with a partner who has a good pitch, and that is what Andy Robinson at BGC said they're doing. They're listening to pitches about Banjo-Kazooie.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I missed that. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah. So I definitely think like being the stewards of their IP, even if it's not something they themselves are directly going to do, would work pretty well, because they've got a lot of games, and we're right now again in the era of mine IP, do things people know. The safe bets, which they aren't actually safe bets most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, Red's 35 years old. It would be horrible to see a studio of that tenure and that capability not.
And I do think what Capcom says.
They were bought by Microsoft.
Well, that's a big part of my opinion pieces. If you do the history lesson, they were purchased in 2002 for, I think, $375 million. They pumped out Grabbed by the Ghoulies, Perfect Dark Zero, Cameo Elements of Power, Viva Pinata, Trouble in Paradise, and then the Kinect era came, right? And this very much to me, and I wrote this in my op-ed, it very much to me felt like a studio that was trying to find out, like, what the fuck do you guys want, new corporate overlords? Like, what do you want us to make? Like, and then Kinect came out, and they went all in. And that, granted, like, they made the best Kinect game, Kinect Sports. Its follow-up for the Xbox One, Kinect Sports Rivals, was good, but I mean, the Kinect was on its way out. It was not popular. It wasn't fun, and they went through that awful corporate rebranding. But 2018 rocks up. They switch back to the classic blue and gold logo for Rare, and they bundle up the Rare Replay stuff, and then they release and announce Sea of Thieves, and that felt like the Rare we know, bringing all of that charm and humor into Sea of Thieves world, but also very succinctly ticking the corporate needs and wants of its big owner with an online money-making multiplayer game. And then they pivoted it fully into live service after a week launch, and it's one of the best revenue makers they've got. So they're a capable team, and I don't want to see them come to harm. Like
I would caution that response there then. So I felt really bad listening to that because I was thinking and anybody at Rare, that if anybody at Rare is watching this, I do think everybody is critical of what they do. But is that an aeroplane outside my house, or is that button?
it's me muting it quickly because there's some noisy people.
Yeah, the challenge for me is Rare. Everybody has this opinion of Rare, and it's from when they worked with Nintendo, and it was in a completely different era 25 years ago. And most of the people that are at Rare then are not at Rare now.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if Rare actually do any work around what is our studio, what do we do. If they didn't have Sea of Thieves, they would have been one of the studios closed. I guarantee it. Because there's no other reason to keep them open if they've just got Everwild. Everwild was in development for, I think, like 8-9 years.
Correct.
And they didn't ever show it. Apart from a trailer, which was not a game.
We got two very pretty trailers that made us go, "Ooh, what is it?"
Yeah. What a really cool looking game that I'd expect an indie studio to make, right? And Everwild was probably much like Sea of Thieves. It was going to be this open world, do what you want, explore. That I don't know. But the challenge is, if they spent that much time on it, they probably spent that much money on it. We're talking 80 to 100 million, even if it's pre-production over that level of time is a lot.
Yeah.
So if they'd done that and they weren't doing Sea of Thieves, Rare would have been closed. Most of the people in the UK think of Rare as a company behind GoldenEye, which was a cool first-person shooter, but wasn't super groundbreaking in my opinion.
Perfect Dark was better.
Yeah, I was interested in the new Perfect Dark. I thought that looked different, and it was like you could see that they're spending significant money to make a amazing-looking feeling game, but it wasn't Rare making that. If Rare was making it, that might have been a different ideal for me. But my challenge is there are so many studios that make good games. And I'll put this in a nicer way. There are lots of people making games, and you should respect people that make games, because I've never made one. I've got ideas, but I've never made one. And I can't criticize the game somebody makes to an extent. I can have an opinion, but I can't really say they're shit at making games, right? I don't think Rare is. I think they're good at making games. They've got a lot of people that have made Sea of Thieves. Brilliant. But what else have they done?
Yeah, I don't feel like they've had a good run under Microsoft.
So Rare Replay, brilliant. What a brilliant product that was. Viva Pinata, brilliant. That was 10 years ago.
Yeah. But and Rare Replay now in this current age, like you sold everything in your back catalogue for, what was it, 30 quid?
Yeah.
Great for us. Business wise, you could have sold like each one, done a remaster or whatever, and bundled it up.
It's like what we're seeing with Gears Reloaded, because it was going to be the collection. It's like, no, why would you do that? You get $50 for each one. That's the only way any of these work anymore. It sucks, but
they don't get $50 now. They get $15.99 a month.
Or that. Or Microsoft just hands it all out, because if you've ever played Gears of War Ultimate Edition, they literally just give you a code.
Yep. I've got a code.
They're still always the most generous when it comes to reselling things. They are reselling it to new people on PlayStation. They're getting a much better version on PC. But if you had already bought it on PC or on Xbox, like you're now getting this very pretty, big improvement, play anywhere title that'll work forever, essentially.
Yeah.
Elsewhere
in news, but before we dive into that, we've got a couple of super chats from the lovely Jordan and Al.
Hey,
the first one is, "Oh, it's Gareth. I love this guy. Great man, great Liverpool fan. I'll be following up with you this week. Now I'm thinking about Jota, and I'll miss him."
Do you know, it wasn't until Diogo Jota passed away that I realised what his name was. So we're all pronouncing it wrong as well. It's Jota. Because
I thought it might be Jota after I said it, but yeah.
You were right. Everybody says it Diogo Jota. But
Jota.
It's Jota because his name is De Silva. And like most people from Spanish or Brazilian, Portuguese backgrounds, they will use a name that they need to. So he changed his name because there was somebody else already called De Silva. So he used Diogo J, and Jota is what he used. So his name isn't Jota, but everybody sees it as that way. I only learned that after he passed away, and that made me a bad Liverpool fan.
Oh, yeah, that was the young lad that died in the car crash in Spain, right?
Yes, that's the one. And so my last couple of weeks have been just crying at Twitter, partly because people keep saying that Game Pass isn't profitable, but partly because there's just loads of videos of Diogo on, and he had a great song. And I've not been able to get it out of my head. I have this last couple of days, but the first week after he died, it's the only thing in my head for like a week. So it's really weird.
Someone so young as well, and such a a rising star.
Got married 10
I
days.
just got married. I know it's
one of his kids was born in November, and you're like, what can we do? How can we help? But it's the challenge with cult of personality is that these football, we'll call it soccer. These soccer players, right? I think of it differently to my kids. Like, these are my team. I love them to bits. I will go anywhere for them. I will die for them if I want to. My middle son wasn't a huge Jota fan, but he came in and said, "Can I have a Diogo Jota shirt?" And I was like, I didn't even question it. I was like, yeah, of course you can. It arrived 2 days later, and he put it on, and I was like, I'm proud of you, son. But for them, for the younger kids, they're like actual heroes. Like Mbappe, Messi. He thinks that Messi's the best football player in the world, and I was like, meh, there's probably some other players right now. But it does change your perspective, because we can all not be here, right? And I'd rather be here, because I've got 3 kids that are going to rely on me at least till they're 27, 28, and hopefully a lot sooner than that they'll bugger off and go somewhere else. But it puts things in perspective, because to them, we were probably just fans, right? But to us, they make a difference in our lives, because my life literally revolved around when Liverpool play. I'm not joking. No. My diary is organised around when Liverpool play. When there's a midweek match, somebody in America asks for a phone call. I'm like, it's not happening. I'm really sorry.
Busy. In that way, I'm glad I've never really got into sports, because I'm too busy.
I was really into sports, and then every Boston team just kept winning championships. I'm like, I'm good. I'm satiated. They all kept winning.
There you go. Yeah. Jordan has a follow-up. He asked, and I think he probably missed the Civ conversation earlier, but asked he's intrigued by what kinds of games does Gareth play when he finds the time?
I had to remove Monopoly from my phone about 9 months ago. Maybe 12 months.
The Monopoly Go?
Yeah, my wife thought it was because I was getting really pissed off with it, but it's because I kept spending money. And it's easy to do, right? No, I want that now. So what a great idea that was. I like the version. I like Monopoly as a concept. We have Monopoly, but they did a really good daily play version of it. And I spent too much money. Well, not too much. I just kept spending money. I was like, I'm going to spend my money on other stuff. So I did play that, which means I no longer play anything on mobile, which now I just doom scroll on TikTok and all that kind of stuff for 3 hours a night. But I can tell you that the games that I play are different based on where I play them. So if I'm on this PC, you may see musical instruments. Occasionally, I get time to make music. When I don't make music, I play games, and they're traditionally strategic or strategy games on PC, because I've got a mouse and I've got 2 large 32-inch monitors, which is probably overkill. But it allows me to... Fine. If I could have one 65-inch, I might go for that next time. But I think for me, PC is strategy. Nintendo Switch is family, because we play... what's the Nintendo version of Monopoly Go? I'm getting old and forgetting all this. Of Monopoly. Mario Party, effectively.
Oh, yeah.
We play Mario Party and stuff like that. Very rarely, but we do.
Dude, Lego Party is legit.
Don't tell me that after.
It's really fun.
I hate Mario Party with a certain fervor, almost like Multiverses. My hate for that game. Lego Party is like one of the best games.
It was really fun. We played it at SGF. Here, I'm going to quickly show you for fun my stupid setup. One sec. Oh, it kicked me out.
Camera switching.
Oh,
Mhm.
I don't know if he meant to leave because that would really mess up
He left.
the.
Oop, there we go.
Yeah, see, it makes us go weird in the boxes. There he goes. That's
You've
his setup.
got Terry Pratchett level set up. Do you know who Terry Pratchett is?
Mhm.
Terry Pratchett had 6 screens presented in like a matrix kind of shell above his desk, and he used to play FPS games all the time. He used to play Rainbow Six a lot when he was around still, and on that 6-screen setup, he didn't just write games on it; he played Rainbow Six on it.
I forgot to
It reminds me of
maximize
that. That's a great setup. Apart from that slightly rotund dude in a red top.
this. Now it'll look right. I remember to remaximize it. So I just capture StreamYard and cut all of the cameras out. Yeah, so I've got the 42-inch OLED, 27-inch high refresh rate, which is why it looks kind of weird, and then a couple of 24 inches for like chat and other stuff. So, yeah,
That's
it's
great.
a fun
That's a great.
It took a long time to build and cost a lot of money, but it was worth it. There's the GoXLR. This is Hall Effect joystick or Hall Effect key switch Turtle Beach keyboard.
That looks quite nice.
You can actually set it so it reads the actuation level on each key, and you can actually walk in PC games that support it. I know.
Nifty.
It is very cool when it works. But I will put this back on there.
Oop. He's back.
Yeah.
All
to
right.
come back to Jordan's point, because I do want to answer his question, because I feel bad if I wouldn't.
To add to that, because he's touched on the super chat, just so you can wrap them all up in one. How weird! I also make music. Are we kindred spirits? Both Liverpool fans, gamers, and music makers.
It depends what music you make. In 1996, I wrote a dance track that would still get played in clubs today. I have no doubt of that because it was that good. Dance music, EDM, everything else is easy. You can write a track in an hour. It's fine. Nowadays, I have expensive guitars for a reason. I like more natural sounding music, and I have a drum kit as well. It's kind of hidden there, but there's like a digital drum kit that I plug into Contact, and I can use all the drum sets with it and play that. So I very much like to write music. I don't like to share it, but it's fucking brilliant, even if I do say so myself.
I love making stuff. I've got to record a cover because, like, Jesse and I were thinking yesterday, like, all of the things, like to try, like the dyeing of the hair as a reward for like breaking a goal, but they so wildly succeeded our expectations. I was like, what else can I do to throw myself on the altar of embarrassment? And I will be recording a cover of Pink Pony Club by Chapel Roan. It's for Patreon backers.
Just
for the lols.
To remind people, though we did hit this goal, the links are still in chat and in the descriptions. Every little bit goes towards making it actually profitable to go out to Gamescom, to do more things in the future. It's a travel fund because much like the Iron Lords and a lot of others do some light crowdfunding to try and help with the cost because it's very expensive to go to places, but we're going to be seeing a lot of shit at Gamescom. Oh my god.
Who is going to Gamescom from your team?
Me, John,
Pre-drag.
and the man, Pre-Drag, who makes all of this look professional when it is definitely not.
So I'm going to be there from Monday to Friday. I fully expect that we should meet for some beers.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, we're flying in.
Do you go to the Cork?
Everybody's like, I'm not going there this year. We're all there every night. It's fine.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
That's where we hear is the place to be. We normally hang around in the Hallmarkt.
Taking card and issuing receipts, it became much easier to go there. So yeah, it's fine. We'll be there.
Cool. No worries. I'm sure we'll bump into each other. We'll have a round of console wars on the bar.
Do pay and put some money in because it's not going to the beer fund for them because all the PR people pay for the beer, but it allows them to do more and take more people and do more stuff. Very
Too
important.
true.
If we double the amount, we can take Nick.
Yeah.
Not that he could even get the time off work by now. It's a little late.
Now, I'm conscious of time because it's coming up on 1 a.m. UK time. As one other story I kind of wanted to briefly talk about.
The crazy one?
Well, no, okay, there's two. Like one is Halo got a little update, but there's also a rumor doing the rumor rounds, and I'm like, It's a report from Mr. Rebs, who he does a lot of like single source reporting, but the rumor is that the Halo CE remake is not going to have a multiplayer component.
When was the last time we heard
single
that?
player, and I'm like, that's good, but like people are still leaping on it, and I'm like, that's fully expected. I did not expect a multiplayer suite from this.
Well, yeah, there isn't a multiplayer of Halo to bring in unless you just pulled it right from the Master Chief Collection. But also, we heard all the exact same stuff for Gears, so I don't know. Like every report was like, "Oh, there's not going to be any multiplayer in Gears." So I'm just at this point where I'm like,
they've remastered every map. From
I'll just wait. I don't care about rumors that much anymore. I hate rumor culture.
So there's that one.
In an online focused world, for them not to do a multiplayer would be very foolish.
The thing I like for me is like the Halo Infinite is live right now, right? And to try and build out all of the modes and stuff and build another Halo multiplayer, it's just going to take away from your existing one, which has got tons of content. And you have to start that content pipeline again. I think the point of whatever project this is, which is why I think that this is probably true and honestly probably fine, is that it is a very pretty Halo CE remake in Unreal Engine that's going to go all out in terms of like, wow, look at this, and make a really good single player. I expect there to be co-op, but I do not expect a multiplayer component from this Halo game. And the thing that makes me laugh is seeing all the headlines is like, I get that Halo multiplayer is important, but like, there's lots of games that release as just a single player, but they don't get knocked for points if they don't include a multiplayer. Like, this isn't 2010.
It would be interesting because CE had multiplayer, but it was only local or LAN. Like, it didn't have online.
I had some great LAN parties with that.
Oh,
Am I allowed to use the C word on this?
yeah, you can.
I had a LAN party once where a guy came down from Newcastle. Bearing in mind I lived in Nottingham, which distance-wise is basically like Tampa to Miami. The others on the call. But that was like I was 17 years old. That was like, I think it was 17 or 18. That was like the biggest distance in the world to me. And he drank half a bottle of whiskey, so I wrote cunty on his forehead. He woke up and went home without realising it. It was the most glorious. But that's what LAN parties were for. And it was a Halo LAN party. It was like, I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember this, but I had my parents had a 32-inch CRT TV. The back of it went back half a mile. I had to put two of these next to each other to play Halo multiplayer, and it was the most glorious thing ever because you had to work hard to do it. And yeah, I think the one thing I would add to this is the studio's moving from a bespoke engine to Unreal because it doesn't make financial sense to have a bespoke engine anymore, unless you're creating multiple games from it, which they're not. So a remaster would be a great way to test the ability to do an Unreal Halo, right?
Yeah.
Before they went.
It's trying to figure out the feel as much as anything. It needs to feel like a Halo game.
Can you make Halo on Unreal? You probably can, but you probably have to do some things with it to make it feel like Halo.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I can't wait. I can't wait to see what they've been cooking. I love Halo. So, yeah, sign me up.
Got a super chat?
We do. We have a super chat from Tiberius Monk who says, just here to show support, Jon, Jesse, and the XboxEra community. Also, Gareth is a cool guest. Great insights and analysis about video games. There you go, Gareth.
One of the few times our show actually has someone that knows what they're talking about and isn't just guessing.
I'd like to find a music-related show where I can talk about music technology and slag off native instruments and a few other people at the same time. But there are
One day. The only other story really to talk about before we head into community questions is the crazy story behind Krafton, Unknown Worlds, and Subnautica 2. Now, I've read bits and pieces of this, but Jesse, like, help me understand here. What is going on?
So originally, there was a press release, or it was put out there that the founders and leaders of the Subnautica 2 studio were being let go from their positions. There were rumors. Krafton started talking way more than companies normally talk in this situation, like in a way more clear, like, this, we have standards and we want to, and need to maintain it. And then it comes out that the founders are countering with a suit about wrongful termination or whatever it ends up being legally, because that always matters how you say stuff legally. And Krafton just came out, and there was a leak of documents that pretty much showed scope had been dropped because milestones were missed, because things were getting behind. And Krafton is like, hey, we need to make a really good first impression with this. And there's one thing I know about Subnautica is when it originally came out, it was in really rough shape, but it pulled itself together over time and sold like 5 million. It really feels like, depending on if this is right and what Krafton has said is true, that it was going to come out in a suboptimal condition for them, and they wanted to wait. But that also means an enormous $250 million or so bonus wouldn't be paid out to the owners and people who had said they were also going to matriculate it down into the rest of the company. Krafton has come out, and I think they've said they're going to pay the bonuses to the people at the company. It's a really weird situation where the company is being way more talkative than they normally are in these situations. They're normally like, this is an internal matter. Sorry, not going to say anything.
This is narrative control more than anything else.
Yeah.
So the things that I can add to this is the technical side of it. The $250 million, 90% of that $250 million would go to the founders, not the employees of the studio. So Krafton saying that they would pay out the bonus to those at the studio is basically like saying, well, I had to give £100 to these two, so I'm going to give $10 for these other 75 people. It's a drop in the Subnautica ocean, as it were. When you sell a business, I feel like I'm trying to be a teacher here. I'm not, I promise. I'm just trying to give context, right? But when you sell a business, there are situations, whether it is in the US, Europe, or not, where you define what a good and bad leaver situation is. Now, a good leaver, I can help you define that for everybody who's watching. A good leaver is when you die. A bad leaver is when you leave. Full stop. It is weighted. These business sale and purchase agreements are weighted to stop you leaving, because if you say you're going to stay and you agree to stay, it's for a period of time. You have X amount earn out, bonus, whatever. This $250 was a bonus to stay and complete the project. I haven't read the documents, but I'm assuming it was a bonus to stay and complete the project and release it. If you then release it and it does well, you get this money. Brilliant, cool. If they fire the founders without making an addendum to that sale and purchase agreement, they are likely to be sued for wrongful dismissal. It doesn't matter who you are, that's going to happen, because the amount of money on offer is such an extent that you would go, hang the fuck on, where is my share of this, which is another $80 million. There are 3 founders, right? So $80 million each.
So is this not the case, though, that what Krafton are saying, and I'm not trying to take sides here, obviously, but like they're saying, well, no. In order to meet that, so you get your money, you are deliberately cutting features that were planned for the game to make the game the best it can be, and release it in a worse state than it should have been released in. Ergo, yeah, we want to delay it to get everything in that should be there on day one. So sorry, and then they came to arms, and then they've. I mean, that's what I read into the situation. Like, I don't want to call Krafton the good guys here, but like, I feel like there's a fair both sides to the argument. I can understand the human being wanting their money, but also
there is going to be a level of you must hit these targets.
Yeah.
For any kind of earnout or for any kind of bonus payment, you must hit these targets. These are defined by these terms, which you'd agree to at this point in time. Should you not meet these, or one of them, or not stick to X amount, we can then redefine this, or it will not be paid. Stuff like that happens all the time. In development agreements, milestone payments are very simple to work out. You'll have money released at these times when you deliver this.
Yeah.
I think there's probably bits of both sides on at play here. I think maybe there was going to be a suboptimal version of the game if it released this year. Krafton, as the owner and the publisher, has the right to go, I'm going to delay this till next year. If the 3 founders were then at a position where they were going, well, I'm not going to hit my bonus, they could actually just say, hey, well, that means our bonus is affected. Can we have an addendum that says our bonus is not affected, but it's delayed until the release of the game? That stuff's easily achievable. but there's probably more at play, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't think
always-
Krafton are a bad company. I think every company makes good and bad decisions.
Yeah.
But if I was the co-founders, I'd already had hundreds of millions of dollars for selling the company to Krafton in the first place. There comes a point where you go, does another 80 million matter to me? And for some people, the answer to that is yes, and some people, the answer is no.
Yeah, I think there'll be more that comes out on this story over the coming weeks and months. I suspect. But yeah, they've launched a lawsuit, the founders. So let's see what happens. I guess. Yikes! Bad times for that team though. That's a rough place to be in.
Well, the other thing we should say that's really important is there are still loads of other developers still working on Subnautica, and let's not make this a story. Let's make the sequel the story when it comes out and treat it exactly
Day
the same
one
as
on
the
Game
show.
Pass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can guarantee you will not be treated. It'll always be about this, unfortunately. But hey ho. All right. I think that's pretty much all the news. So I want to dive into our wonderful community questions from our Patreon members. But before we do that, it's obviously a moment, a solemn moment, full of meaning and definite seriousness, to thank our Patreon members for all of their support. From our subathon yesterday, which blew us away in terms of how much you guys rose to the occasion, to the folks that spend money monthly to keep us alive, and everything in between. You guys are all awesome. Our YouTube members as well. You're all in that same wonderful bucket of fantastic people. If you are a regular listener to the XboxEra podcast, if you're listening to us on Spotify right now or on Amazon Music or on Apple Music, and you're like, I really like this show, I tune in every week, please do seriously consider heading over to patreon.com/XboxEra and look at it as like we're your buddies and you've bought us a coffee. It's $3 a month for the lowest tier. It's cheap as chips comparatively to some other
We've
patrons.
got 3 movie commentaries to do, and that $3 tier
Yeah,
will
I
get
know.
them. These ones.
I know.
Later ones, maybe not.
And I think there's even right now, there might still be some left.
They got used. I checked.
Wonderful.
They got used up today.
They all got
All
used
50.
up. So one of our
Yeah.
grand benefactors dropped 50 2-month $6 tier subs to the Patreon yesterday for free members to take up. So it's incredible. And if you're listening right now, you get the best bits of the community. You get access to the secret lounge on Discord and on our forums. You get access to exclusive giveaways. You get access to all sorts of cool stuff, as well as all the extra content like our movie shows and our Patreon Peeps episodes, which we've started to push out. And it's all for you. And we really appreciate you. So thank you so much. Now, diving into community questions, we've got our, what do you want to do first? Form or forum?
I was thinking of something different. What if
I read them in this voice this week, Daddy.
I would rather kill myself.
I'm on
I'll go with the...
I'm on the forum right now.
Okay, forum. Forum.
Yep.
Okay. All right. First question is from Hyphen G, who says, although we all know what happened last week with Microsoft laying off employees, although we can temper down our expectation with MS, but I know half of you gents watched Gordon Ramsay's show. But have you all ever watched Bar Rescue with John Taffer getting really angry at the restaurant and bar owners, sloppy and bad service? But have you gents watched his show anyway?
Don't do the Nick thing. Let's re-answer the question and then do the PS.
I have no idea who John Taffer is.
No, I don't watch any of those because I hate reality TV because it's all fake.
Yeah, I've seen clips of Gordon Ramsay.
You might know John Taffer. He's in a lot of memes. Older Italian guy with like a big pog face, like, oh, like you probably know his face, but the shows are terrible.
The only thing I can say about Gordon Ramsay, and I would love you to play this on the stream right now. These always crack me up. This is the best bit of Gordon Ramsay is these cartoons on YouTube. So let me find it because it's a cartoon. I don't think it's going to be copyrighted.
Everything always is, as far as I know.
But you
I
might
wouldn't
be able to
trust
play
it.
Oh, okay.
No, I
Well, I'll put
wouldn't.
the link in the chat.
Yeah.
Go watch this and crack up at Gordon Ramsay. Hyphen. There you go. It's really funny.
And reality TV is staged. I used to work in TV, and I know that it's staged because I've staged some films.
Yep. Well, they showed it with the Osbournes. They just went through the entire thing at the end and were like, "Yep, this was us essentially staging all of it."
Mad.
Drama.
Yeah, Drama Llama, not a fan. A PS from Hytham says, if you gents bet a corn dog on one of those two individuals, so Gordon Ramsay or John Taffer, in an angry shouting contest, who would it be? John Taffer or Gordon Ramsay or some other food restaurant critic? But your gents pick.
Gordon Ramsay. He just uses swear words.
Yeah, I would pick Gordon Ramsay. He's angry and
I'd probably go Gordon.
And quite threatening.
I don't think he's that tall though. He's not that threatening. Oh, you're short. Everyone's taller than you.
Exactly. I'm towered.
Also,
over
like
by lots of
British
others.
Gordon Ramsay is a lot nicer than American Gordon Ramsay.
I also think John is slightly taller than me.
It's okay. We're fellow short kings, Gareth, and we are proud of it.
I'm a big boy. We got a super chat if we want to do that before the next one.
We do have a super chat from Grand Benefactor Assassin. So, following the successful Subacon, does that mean everyone is going to fly first class to Gamescom? Jesse, I'm counting on you and the team for your impressions on Pragmata and Onimusha, and I'm counting on you all. It won't be first class.
I have impressions on Pragmata. I already got to play it, and I think I did a preview.
You did.
Hopefully we get invited for the Gamescom. I haven't yet. I do know they're letting people play things there that you couldn't play at Summer Games Fest. So I will try and get in with Capcom. There's never a guarantee.
Yeah,
I only got one. I don't think we had anything with them last year.
They put a press release out, Capcom, saying that Resident Evil, Requiem, Pragmata, and what's that other one? Onimusha.
Yeah,
they're all going to be there playable.
Yeah,
so.
but it's like, I don't know if they're also going to have a business section. I would assume they do, that you can go and set up things for, but I haven't heard anything from them yet.
Yeah,
We'll
do our best. Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's good stuff from Capcom. Next up, question is from Jesse Brother. And he wants to say, happy podcast 271, gentlemen. Behold, brother. Remember when that scientist on Aquatine used to lead off every episode saying that?
Behold!
Oh, okay. Thank you for the education. To the surprise of probably no one, Jesse's game recommendation for me to play next, 1. Now, full disclosure, I did play Space Marine 2 last year, but less than an hour's worth. The game had not even officially come out yet, but thanks to me being Jesse Brother and his game sharing with me, I was able to play it, just had to not say a word about it, which was good because I was not loving my time with it back then. Not sure if there was an early bug or if it was due to my cognitive issues, but I got stuck on this part where we needed to keep these bat-looking things off some comm towers, and they kept destroying them. The good news is I played that same part the other day and beat that motherfucker no problem. My question this week is, have you all had any levels like that where you just wanted to quit a game, but you eventually triumphed and felt amazing for doing so? Gareth, have you ever had a game challenge you so much that you wanted to kill it and then you beat it and you felt glorious?
Has anybody else played the extreme levels on Trials, whether it's Trials Fusion, Trials Evolution? I have the pleasure of working with the guy who made those games, and I actually asked him 2 weeks ago when I saw him in person, why the living fuck would you do that to anyone? And he went, because some people just want to play the game all the time. I was like, and that was it.
Wow.
I completed, I can't remember the name of it now, but I there's a Giga track halfway through Trials Fusion that's like 8.5 minutes long. That's fine. I did that without any faults, which put me in the top 200 in the world for that track. Yes. But that wasn't an extreme track. There's an extreme track in Trials HD. Bear in mind, Trials HD was like 2005.
Yeah,
I didn't beat it till like 2019. And I beat it with the most amounts of faults that you could possibly have. So fault is where you fall off the bike and reset to the last point, but carry a 5-second penalty. If you get too many faults, you just lose the track and have to restart. And I think it took me something like 32 minutes to get through the track that other people have done in 2.5 minutes. That's the level of skill required for that. So it's like if you play Souls-like games, and I don't, the hardest boss you can ever imagine for 15 years. That's that one track for me. And I beat it and I never fucking played it again. Ever.
Fair. Yeah. I think like the one that pops to mind most vividly, I can't remember if it was Ninja Gaiden Black or Ninja Gaiden 2. I suspect 2. But there were these bow and arrow motherfuckers on a spiral staircase. And because of the terrible camera in the game, you couldn't always quite see them. So you'd start to progress and they would shoot you and knock you down to the bottom of the spiral. And I just randomly got stuck there and it was the most infuriating thing because it was like I'm constantly trying to like see him so I can stop him from shooting or dodge the, and it just kept knocking me down. And this was like the closest I've ever come to throwing a pad at something. So it's always stuck in my mind. Bearing in mind I've completed Ninja Gaiden 2, so like all the hard bosses afterwards, it wasn't even a boss. It was just a bunch of dudes with some bow and arrows. Really wound me up. I fucking hated that whole section. Go figure. What about you, Jesse? Any particular?
It's funny that Assassin says Lies of P in the chat, because the version Lies of P that we reviewed was way harder than what you got to play at launch, and is infinitely harder than what it is now, especially since you can lower the difficulty. One of the third to last boss is this lady in full armor on a bridge, and it's the hardest thing I've ever done in any video game, bar none. It's not even close. It's still hard now, but she had twice the health and did 3 times the damage when I beat her, compared to what people got to play at launch, because it was nerfed literally the day before launch, but I had already had it beaten for a week. And that took me about 115 attempts to beat her, but I did it. And Jesus Christ, it was the best feeling I've ever had playing a game. Yeah, Alexasia.
That's not the first Souls-like I've ever heard of nerfing the difficulty level before release, because I had that with Lords of the Fallen.
Yep.
Like 2 days before release, they went, "We're making it easier for everyone."
Yep.
And I was like, because they could see the data on where people get stuck and for how long.
Yep.
And I was like, "Don't, because that will drive people to love it." But they did.
Was that the original or 2023?
That was the original version.
Yeah, because 2023 is still, Jesus Christ, pretty hard. But I love that, learning the patterns and maximizing the gear and trying to over level. Like Elden Ring's not hard. You can over level everything, and there's still a ton of broken builds, but like Dark Souls and especially Demon's Souls were like unfair at times. And Lies of P never felt unfair despite being that hard. It was just, you gotta get the timing right on all of these attacks. For at the time when I did it, 28 minutes to beat her. I think you can easily do it now in like, I don't know, 10. But like I couldn't get hit twice in a row.
Though, right? You enjoyed that 20 minutes.
Oh, I loved it.
Right?
Like it was infuriating at times, because you're like, she's 1 or 2 hits away, 5 attempts in a row, but you've got nothing left, and then you just miss one thing. Because I was at a point where even though I was probably about 30 levels above where you were supposed to be for it, it was still almost impossible, and I could be 2-shot at almost any time. And
try and explain this conversation to somebody who doesn't play video games. They're just going to sit here and go, "Nerds."
Yeah.
And I'm like, but people's experiences make it what it is, right?
Yeah, it's like sports. Like you're never gonna get perfect at sports, but eventually you get to this point where you know you have gotten better, and it's that way with me with games, where I like fair difficulty, where it feels like I just need to do this correctly and not I'm getting screwed. And like the bad Souls likes generally are ones that don't understand. It's all about the vibe and how cool things feel. It's about the good level design, and it's about a difficulty that is like legitimately difficult and not just cheap. Cheap is infuriating, and I've had that in a few of the ones that I've given up and not ended up reviewing because they just weren't enjoyable at all, and it was a late review anyways, so there's no point in doing it.
You mean they gave it you 5 hours after the embargo?
No, it was when we were smaller, and it was just, okay, the codes come in now for the influencer, or we're in a dearth of content, we don't get many codes, so I was going back to things I had access to either through Game Pass or owned just to try and get some content out. But yeah, Lies of P pre-nerf is still the hardest thing I've ever played, but bar none.
Not for me, those things. All right, now we've got a super chat. I'm gonna save it towards the end.
Yep.
So hold fire, PS5 Sweden. Next up, Didact, in the honor of Nick. 3.
Even though he has said just call him Didact.
I know.
Nick doesn't care.
Hello, gentlemen. Is it weird when discourse boils down to if mega corporations are making enough money? I'm genuinely tired of seeing if Game Pass is sustainable or marketing discussions when there are so many games to play instead. It's not even like profitability matters much when layoffs happen anyway, so what's the point? Surely the console wars have ended, unless it's a card game. Yeah, but yeah, we're all pretty bored of it. Like, as always with this show, you will find that we will try and give you the analysis as to why we do not support the firings in any way, shape, or form. Microsoft as a corporation sucks, but we can give you some pretty solid reasons as to why they might be happening. Like we have done. All 3 of the projects that got cancelled were in production for like 7 to plus years. And Microsoft just looked at the numbers and was like, is this going to be worthwhile for another 3 years of production or another 4? And the answer was no. That's it. That's the decision. Granted, that decision probably came from up high to fund, as we know, horrible AI. But that's not Xbox. That's horrible Microsoft. You know what I mean? Yeesh.
I think it's important to specify at this point. I'm a fan of Nintendo, I'm a fan of PlayStation, I'm a fan of Xbox. Most people, if you ask them, yes, they know Xbox is a Microsoft brand, but they're an Xbox fan. They're not a Microsoft fan. And I think it's, unless you're Jez Corden and he loves the Windows phone, so maybe he is a Microsoft fan. He'll hate me for saying that, probably.
He is definitely not right now.
So I can tell you, if I'm given the choice between Google, whatever it is, Business Suite or Microsoft Office, I choose Microsoft Office because it's easy for me. I've always done it. So I am a Microsoft fan on that point. And we use Azure for everything on Press Engine. Not everything, but a lot of stuff on Press Engine because it's scalable, it works, and it's efficient, and it doesn't ever fall down, unlike Amazon. Sorry, Amazon, but you lot go offline all the time. But I'm definitely an Xbox fan. I think it's important to make the distinction between Microsoft and Xbox because I wouldn't be happy if Xbox were making 6,000 layoffs. Xbox has twice as many employees as Nintendo does.
I think the number of people they laid off Microsoft as a company, 9,000, totals the entirety of, or a large chunk of, Nintendo.
Yeah.
That's mad. That's the scale we're dealing with here of a company.
Microsoft has 230,000 employees globally. And a small fraction have been laid off, and every single one of them sucks to be laid off. Like I've never been laid off or made redundant, as we call it in the UK. I don't know how that feels. I imagine it feels awful and it's life-changing, and you have to go, shit, how am I going to pay the bills this month? And I think that is the worst thing that could ever happen to somebody if they're invested in a job. But at the same time, from a business standpoint, I understand exactly why they do it. I don't agree with it. It's literally to increase profitability. It's not because they're not making money. It's to increase profitability. And it is a cyclical thing that happens every 5 to 8 years, depending on the business that you're in. And I think because you had the peaks of 2019 to 2022 with COVID, they're not making the same revenue that they were on the profitability level. So how do we retain that? We retain that by paying out less money.
Yeah.
That is the brass tacks of it, unfortunately. And it's the shittiest brass tacks ever. But that's what it is. And there isn't anything that any of us can do about it by whinging about it, writing about it. The decisions get made by finance people. Because I can tell you from the Xbox people who were told you need to make some cuts were probably not very happy about it.
No, I imagine not. Too true. All right, last forum question here from lovely good old Collingwood, who says, hello, Jon and Jesse. Welcome back, Gareth, on Gamescom. So we know Jon and Jesse and Predrag are going, but what about others? Jez Corden from Windows Central is going, yes. I bet Tom Henderson of Insider Gaming is going too, also going, yes. May we hope that Tom Warren of The Verge, Stephen Tortillo and others are going, and there will be a huge gaming media mafia where what goes on in Cologne stays in Cologne? Who do you know is already going? I think Tom Warren is going. I think he messaged me.
I didn't last year.
Hey, what are you doing? When are you there from and to? And I was like, oh, yeah. So we'll probably catch up with Tom.
Got to remember to buy my tickets before it gets too late.
Yeah, we'll get them. We'll get them this week. Don't worry.
Direct flight.
Take care of it.
It's twice the cost.
Yeah, we'll run the math.
I'm sure it's so much more for a direct. Makes me sad.
It is in UK money, but like if I transfer the money to you, it might be not in US money. So, like we'll figure that out. All right. Moving on to our form. We've got just 4 questions here before we wrap things up with a super chat and let you guys have a lovely rest of your evening. First one is from I was
Yeah, you got to choose individual, so it shows just the actual
I
full
got
thing.
it. I was looking at the last one. The first one is from Luke Law, the lovely Luke from Xbox Expansion Pass on Xbox's communications. Would be an interesting one. Is it time for new communication policies and faces from Xbox? Is the lack of direction real or a matter of optics? Thanks, guys. Also, gifted a student a copy of Console Wars the card game this week. Thanks, Luke. I think we've said this many times. Xbox gets talked about its messaging a lot, and don't get me wrong, they do occasionally really mess things up. Also, I think Xbox, comparatively to all the other platforms, has the most leaks about what it's doing and it's doing this and the problem with that is a journalist will leak a thing and set an expectation of a thing, and then there will be discussion of said thing for a few weeks, and then it doesn't really matter at that point what Microsoft says or even doesn't say. Even though they haven't made any messaging, it's always conflated as Microsoft messaging sucks. And I'm not saying it doesn't sometimes suck, it does, but I feel like they get a real bad rep on that front, mostly from 2013, but also from the number of leaks that they suffer that muddy their own messaging for them before they've even actually had a chance to speak, which is a big problem. I don't know. Any takes from you guys? Gareth, what do you think?
So I would say, first off, the leaks that come from Microsoft don't actually come from Microsoft. Because if they did, you would have all the information about Game Pass out in the wild. So some of those contracts are very ironclad and people do stick to it. But Microsoft doesn't have a communication problem, it has a perception problem. And it has a perception problem because it's not communicating as much as it used to. And the reason is it doesn't need to. Because the more that it communicates, the more that it causes stories and the more that it causes potential fluctuations in share price. So anybody that's in a publicly traded company will more often than not have a very clear plan about what they're going to communicate and when, months, years in advance. Those plans do change, which means some things that they intend to say or not say don't line up with what they've already said. And there are very good people that work for Microsoft, both agency side and internally. And I can tell you that Xbox is the most talked about platform on the internet when it comes to video games, by far. This game's fastest profitable thing is 1,500 stories in the last 7 days. Microsoft itself, 6,500 stories in the last week, because I looked earlier on. Nintendo and PlayStation. Nintendo's the only one that comes close to Microsoft. When the Switch 2 launched, there were 32,000 stories in a week about Nintendo Switch across the internet. Most of the time, Nintendo is kind of like 70% of Microsoft's audience. And something you touched upon when you were speaking about it, John, was there are lots of things that come out and rumors and leaks, and people assume that's what happens, or is the case, and it doesn't matter what Microsoft's messaging is. And the reason is because people want to read about it anyway. So the reason people post so much about Xbox and Microsoft is because that gets the most engagement. If they're right that PlayStation hasn't released that many games in the last 12 months, or the 12 months before that, or the 12 months before that, it doesn't really get an engagement, because the thing that does is people defending Xbox, or people commenting that, yes, Xbox are terrible, blah, blah, blah. If you look at Reddit, you know, the vast majority of console-related chatter is around Xbox, defending or attacking. And I don't get it. I mean, I do get it. I understand it entirely, but I think the problem is, as you get older, when you're like old as fuck, like I am, I'm not 24, 30, 35 anymore. I'm like 46. I think I'm 46. I haven't counted for a long time, but I think it was my 46th birthday a couple of months back. I'm not the average games player anymore. I'm probably slightly above the average game player in terms of age. I don't care what console something is on or whether it's on PC. I just really want to play good games because I have a very finite amount of time to do that. Yeah. So when I do that, I want my experience to be great, and it doesn't matter to me what console it's on. I prefer it to be an Xbox because it's my favorite controller, because it's perfect for my tiny little hands. But honestly, do I have time to sit here and argue about which console is the best? No. I did on Twitter in the last week because people were saying some wrong shit. But I've forgotten the question now.
No, you kind of answered it. Their messaging isn't, you know, it isn't always them. It is a lot. There's a combination of
Very
things.
rarely
Having said
lately
that-
it's been them. And like even
Yeah.
like the bad messaging around the layoffs is because he wrote that internal email probably with lawyers and for shareholders. Like it wasn't really for the people who were fired.
Here's the thing. He didn't write that email.
Yeah.
Somebody else did write it, and Phil said, I like this, I don't like this, please change that. They will do internal emails, like Phil will email people, but these kind of things that they know are going to get leaked will be written by
Or that
other
they just
people
send to press.
in comms, and then lawyers will check it, and then it will go to Phil.
I had somebody tell me there's no way lawyers are involved in this. I'm like, are you kidding me? This is a press release.
There's definitely
They are
lawyers.
sending this out for the press and for their shareholders. This is 1,000% going through a ton of people. One of those people is probably the type who ends up leaking it to Tom Warren a month ago.
Yeah. There you go. Okay, next question is from the lovely Monkey versus Tramps. And it is a versus question. He says, hi guys, imagine the scene. Close your eyes, imagine the scene. It's the Game Awards, and none of the Xbox first party games have been nominated. Shock. And Phil Spencer calls out Jeff Keighley on stage, and they both want to settle the matter in a UFC cage match. Who do you think will win and why?
Have you seen how buff Phil is in real life?
Phil has like he's henched up, man.
Yeah, if you compare like Phil to Jeff, like Jeff is
He's tall.
Jeff is
He's got the
like-
reach.
Yeah, but I'm trying to describe this in a way that is in some way slightly funny. But Phil would sit on Jeff, and Jeff wouldn't be able to do anything about it. Phil is like buff, and Jeff is just not. I wouldn't bet against Phil.
I would say though, Phil's got 10 years on Jeff. He's 57. Jeff's 47. You know, Jeff's got a good bit of reach on him. You know, Phil's like short king level height.
Yeah,
know?
Jeff has Nick level bird legs though. They are incredibly thin.
So yeah, I mean, I want to give the edge to Phil. I feel like there'd be a lot of rage behind Phil's attack here at the lack of nominations, and maybe
Jeff
that was
is powered
given
by
the edge.
Mountain Dew though, so he's probably got a lot of energy.
Yeah, that's true. He throws a couple of Doritos like
Well, no,
ninja
he's
stars.
got the cheetah dust, and it's just like Mr. Fuji. Big
Yeah.
Cheeto dust.
I
in the
feel
face.
really bad for Jeff for all of that shit that came. But you've just done the exact right thing. He's literally blown Doritos at Phil to win. Yeah, I like Jeff doesn't go away. So I think he'd have a lot of stamina, but I think Phil would take it.
We'll have to wait and see. Roll on the Game
Phil
Awards.
probably has the money to buy like a bunch of prosthetics and have like a full power suit and just one punch him.
Borrow some Master Chief armor and just like go ham. Now I'm entertained by that, and
Then
I
it's
wish
made
that
by
was what we were
Microsoft, so it
seeing.
malfunctions, just like breaks his arm off.
Yeah. Next up is a Margonaut who says, hey gents, with all the recent backlash towards Game Pass from devs to media and social chatter, I'm baffled by how little scrutiny PlayStation Plus gets in comparison. Game Pass is now being called a threat to the industry, yet PlayStation Plus Extra and Premium offer less, are also subscription services, and somehow dodge criticism. Personally, Game Pass has let me try and buy games I'd otherwise skip, whether because they were too niche or too pricey. For indies and AA studios, that kind of visibility and revenue from players like me is a huge win. Publishers often return with sequels or a new IP, and I wonder why. Moreover, Game Pass offers simpler tiers with stronger perks. PS Plus Extra, meanwhile, removes around 10 games monthly, including PlayStation published ones. Premium adds trials and a classics catalogue that oddly includes remakes and remasters. Even VR games are locked behind Premium, rarely added and often removed. And unlike Game Pass, there's no system like Microsoft Awards for accessibility and engagement. Critics often defend PlayStation Plus by citing the lack of first-party day one drops, as if that alone makes it healthier. But it's still a subscription model and the logic doesn't quite add up. Would love to hear your take. Why is PlayStation Plus exempt from criticism? Thanks as always for the great work. Cheers. I mean, you are quite right. If we look at Nintendo Online, PlayStation Plus, Xbox Game Pass, EA Play, Ubisoft Plus, they are all subscription services and they all do slightly different things. But they all, and I think even dating as far back as like when PlayStation started doing it in the PS3 gen, they all do one thing that changed this industry, which is they gave you free games. And that has become more and more prevalent. We look at the Epic Store. They spend millions of dollars.
Yeah, as Nick said last week, PlayStation started the handing games out thing with their sub.
There is one company whose founder is on Twitter who talks about the game and about how the community is giving lots of feedback to it. And they mentioned last week, after X many years, we're nearly at break even on the game. That developer, publisher, signed a deal with Epic, which paid for the next game, which is not out yet. Of course, that game is broken even many times over. Epic are bringing more players to the store to play Fortnite, not to sell games, which is why it accounts for less than 1% of all sales. As much as Epic, you're kind of giving away, or they're saying, right, 1 million units, $1 million or whatever, you don't need to pay us anything. It's because nobody's selling anything on Epic Store. I would love to say something different because I'd love something different to Steam, so you can actually go out and just have a place with discovery. But Steam has a monopoly. So I've kind of done two tangents in one. But yeah.
Yep, makes sense. Yeah, I think the reason you won't see as much criticism boils down to how a lot of things work. Much like I made this video 2 years ago, and I think it's still entirely relevant. If you're living and working in an industry where 95% of the people that cover it do not care about your platform, do not play on your platform, play everywhere on these other two, you're gonna get more scrutiny for your screw ups and less for your successes. And it's just the way, it's just human nature. It's just life. But you're right, it's not particularly fair, but that's not really our problem, right? It's Microsoft's. I still think they need to market Game Pass in a much less hardcore way. Like, to your point earlier, Gareth, we were talking about parents buying it and realizing they could save a ton of money instead of blowing it on $70 a pop games. They should have that advert. I do not understand why it doesn't exist. Just an argument in a mom and pop store or in Argos or anything, and just buying a game. And one guy's like, "Oh, why don't you just get Game Pass?" He's like, "What's Game Pass?" And just have it explained. It's like, it's like this. It's just.
Do you remember when Microsoft were going to do that little TV box?
Yeah.
Project something or other, and I spoke to somebody at Microsoft at the time after they cancelled it. I was like, "Why would you cancel that? What a great idea!" It's like $49.99 entry into everybody's house, comes with a pad. That would be brilliant. And they went, because we don't need the box. And I'm waiting. You can do it on Samsung, but I'm waiting for the moment where I can do that on any television in the world, and I don't have to buy anything.
It's on my LG. It works okay.
I'd be okay. Here's the thing: if I'm traveling, which is probably for like 5, maybe 6 weeks of the year, whether it's work or holiday. If somebody's a game to come and they say, "Are you coming to the Corconium?" I'm like, nope, I'm just going to finish this level because I'm sat in my hotel right now in my pants and I'm playing this game and I don't get much time. Leave me the fuck alone. That would be wonderful for me. You can't do that on PlayStation Plus, as far as I'm aware. I haven't tried it, so I can be wrong.
This month, for PlayStation Plus, there's a conversation going on in the chat.
One of their best in a while.
It was really good. But oh my god, is that bad? What does that mean? It means that the tail for Cyberpunk sales has probably hit its tail, and now they're going to get some extra money from a publisher for putting it on the service. That's what it means.
And it's not the game people should focus on playing. People should go play.
And I can't tell you the details of those deals either. But it's income, but there are challenges with that income that come with those deals. And I'm literally not allowed to tell you, but I can guarantee you that they would have thought long and hard before they did that deal.
Yeah. All right. Last question, and then we'll end with the super chat from PlayStation 5 Sweden. Assassin, Grand Benefactor, has pointed out that he wrote Nick by accident, and he definitely means Gareth, per his super chat. Hello to Jon, Gareth, and Jesse. Long time no see, gentlemen. My birthday was this past Monday, so needless to say, happy birthday, Assassin. Needless to say, besides a trip to a local mom and pop restaurant, I was definitely gaming. I've been replaying The Outer Worlds since I want to get ready for the sequel. Game is still fun, like I remember, but it's frustrating that I can't run and slide like I did in Avowed. I did like sliding in Avowed. I know it's an earlier game than Avowed, but still. My question to you guys is, what games do you remember getting for your birthday, or what games did you play on your birthday? I still remember my parents getting me Lego Batman, Lego Indy, and Lego Star Wars for my Nintendo DS because I wasn't allowed anything else. Thanks for all you guys do. Thank you, Assassin. Guys, birthday present games, what did you get?
I don't remember. I'm too old.
Wow, we're old.
It's been I don't know, 30 years since I God, it's been more than that probably since I got like video games. So Christmas I can remember. We eventually got the full Sega Tower of Power. Had the Sega CD, and the 32X. I remember having that. I remember having was it Police Knots? The Kojima game, Snatcher. The sequel to it. Which was both good but weird. And had a topless 16-year-old in it, because why not? Not real animated. So I remember a lot of Christmas stuff. I don't remember a ton of birthday, because my birthday is in August, and that games didn't really used to come out then.
Yeah. What about you, Gareth? Anything for your birthday you remember?
I'm going to look so fucking old when I tell you this, right? When everybody got a Mega Drive for Christmas, I got a Master System, and I felt quite bad about that, but I was only like 9, maybe 10. So on my birthday, after being bored of playing Annex Kid versus something or other and Duck Hunt, which came with the Master System, I wanted to buy a game. And those games back then were the pricely sum of 45 marks, because I lived in Germany. 45 marks was about £25. This was 1990. Hopefully I didn't cut out too much then, sorry. My parents took me to a place called Tip in a place called Paderborn in Germany. I think it was called Tip. And that's like the place where you buy all the stuff. And then they have this corner of games in glass cabinets. And in this glass cabinet were Sega Master System games. There was a small one because all the actual games that they showed were Mega Drive games. So there was a tiny cabinet. And they had black boxes, white backgrounds, checkered design, and then in the middle this tiny little screenshot, and then the game logos. And I vividly remember buying Choplifter because it was the only one that I felt really interested in. And if you ask me now if I would play a game like that, the answer to that would be fuck no. I think the only game that would probably come close to it is for young'uns out there, Super Stardust. Where you had the levels where it changed from flat to 3D as you go through a tunnel, and then you come out in flat 3D. There was also Stardust on the Amiga and the ST that did exactly the same thing. But Choplifter was basically patterns of enemies, and the same patterns. They never changed. So it was like, to complete the game, you had to learn the patterns for the entire game, which would last about an hour and a half. But every time you died, you restart the level. So it was like proper old school. And I played that for fucking hours. And my dad played it for fucking hours. It's the only game he's ever played with me before I got him an Xbox about 30 years later. But yeah, I vividly remember that. It's the only game I've ever got for my birthday, because I think in the 90s, pirated games were the thing on the Amiga and the ST. And I got an Atari Jaguar because I lived in Germany and Atari was a thing in Germany. But I never got a birthday present. So I think, being totally honest, my nan, who's no longer with us, bought me Dynasty Warriors collection for the Commodore 64 for my birthday, and it didn't work.
Oof.
Yeah, I've never ever wanted. It was like 1985 as well. So I sent it to Capcom. Capcom sent back a load of games. I was like, wow, this is the best thing ever. But that was the only other birthday one.
Yeah, I actually can't really recall if I've ever received a game for my birthday. I probably did, but the only one I can really remember is I think my dad bought, it wasn't specifically for my birthday, but it was just like, hey kids, as a present, and it was an Amiga 600 Plus. That was really, beyond the BBC Micro, my first avenue into Vidya gaming. So, yeah.
600 was everybody had an Amiga 500. 600 was better.
Oh, 600 was cool, but like it was also at that time like every one of my mates had like Mega Drives and stuff, and I'm like, what is this? There is a photo that exists, and I'm probably revealing way too much here. There is a photo that exists of and I want to say 8 or 9-year-old me with my younger brother. We're both butt naked in my dad's study, crowded around the Amiga at like 6 in the morning. My dad's just come round with the camera and snapped it, and you can just see us like
everybody had the same joystick, right? Which was this.
Yeah, the 2 yellow buttons and the
2 buttons on the front, and you can do so much with those 2 buttons, right? I will add that Workbench was the shittest GUI ever invented, and Amiga fans who still love it are wrong.
Yeah, fair. But I have fond memories of like Silly Putty and Pushover and Zool. And
I need to mention Silly Putty.
I loved that game when I was a kid. Really loved it.
I'm telling you too much. There's stuff happening with Silly Putty and some other games in the next couple of weeks.
I can't wait. Simon the Sorcerer as well. Like, I saw that Simon the Sorcerer Origins is coming like later on this year from a German team, bringing back Simon the Sorcerer, and I thought I might have to pick up some of the Steam versions and maybe play those on stream. But there you go. That's it. That's all of the community questions. Now we've got to finish on a community question from PlayStation 5 Sweden, who I think is a super chat. Yes, who's new. I don't think I've ever seen him in the chat before. So welcome to the Cool Kids Club. That is the XboxEra channel. It's nice to have you. They've asked to close out the show. I still want to know if Gareth plays on the ukulele. Give us a play before closing up. And he dropped 50 krona on this. So no pressure, Gareth. Like I mean, see the ukulele behind you.
You can have a guitar or a ukulele. The ukulele is probably not in tune.
I mean,
he wants a ukulele.
He wants the ukulele. I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to do. The man asked for the.
I will warn you in advance then that it's out of tune, and I don't know how to play it, but I'm going to give it a go.
To all of our Spotify listeners, I'm sorry. It's a ukulele.
It's so out of tune. It's very.
Oh god, it really is out of tune. Someone asked me the other day, like, if I want my kid to learn guitar, should I get him to learn ukulele first? And I was like, no, just get them a guitar.
Get him a drum kit. That'll teach him guitar.
I can't play ukulele. I think this is like a C. If it was in tune, this is more a display ukulele than anything else. Much like the display violin up there that nobody can see.
I can't see the violin.
You made him happy.
I got a new guitar. I don't know if you watched the show a couple of weeks ago, but I walked into a guitar shop for the first time, and they had this absolutely gorgeous green Tanglewood. And it was like the first time since I was 16 years old, I was like, oh my God, that's beautiful. And then I ended up just walking out the store with it. I only went in there to get guitar strings, and I walked out with a 300 quid guitar because I'm an idiot.
Yep.
Is it, what kind of Tanglewood is it?
It's not a super fancy one. It was like 299 quid. So it's nice. It's electroacoustic. Oh, it's the fancy electric guitar looking body shape.
Okay.
I can't remember what it's called. It's got the big arse, but it's got like kind of like electric prongs.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Tanglewood is not actually a bad make at all.
No. It sounds great. I love the guitar, so I'm delighted.
That's the thing that everybody should remember with guitars and ukuleles, which no longer is there. Sorry. Is you should play it before you buy it. I've bought guitars without playing them before and given them away or sold them, right? If you find a sound that makes you happy, fucking buy it, because it will continue to make you happy regardless of whether you can play. If you find a sound that makes you happy, buy it. And I will tell you, price is not important. There are some guitars I've played where I've gone, oh, that feels great, and some guitars I've played that go, oh, that sounds incredible, but the feeling is the important bit. Yeah. Don't worry about the cost. This ukulele, I think I bought it for like or my wife maybe I bought it as a Christmas present, but I think it was maybe like 25 quid. I've had so much fun just pissing about with this when I'm cleaning windows.
Because that's what every ukulele for in the UK, right? But I can put this down and then pick up my $2,500 Martin acoustic.
Very nice.
And then I play an open A-add-11 chord on the 7th fret, and I'm like, that's why I bought this guitar. Because there are some things in life you should work for, and I worked very hard for that guitar.
Yeah, I used to work at a music shop when I was a kid, and they had the Stratocaster. I think it's a Strat from Wayne's World.
Yeah,
the one that he bought, the white one. And this is a bad anecdote. Right, to close out the show, my job was to clean all the guitars. I could tune stuff. I once tuned and serviced Joe Pasquale's guitar when I was 17 years old. Fun story. But anyway, this Wayne's World guitar, it was super limited edition. It took pride of place. They had another guy working there that was a little bit younger than me, and I had cleaned that guitar and put it back on the wall. I put it on the hanging wall bracket, and the bracket was wrong way round, and it fell from 3 guitars high, smashed on the floor, and I blamed it on the other guy.
Good work. Good work.
I'm a bad person, all right? I feel really guilty about that.
Was it a chainsaw or a single guitar?
It's owned by I don't even know I don't think it's actually still there anymore, but it was called PMT.
I remember. I think PMT might have closed recently.
Yeah, it was owned by Terry and someone else, and they were nice guys. They kept a selection of saucy magazines under a roof panel above the toilet, which I thought was a bit suspect when I was 16. I was like, really, guys?
You never know what people are like, do you?
Yeah, honestly, very strange. But yes, I am a bad person for doing that. I was 16,
you know what you're a bad person for?
The job.
For using the XboxEra YouTube account and giving the weirdest goddamn recommendations. Why am I seeing "You are not a sir, you are a madam" Coach Carter clip and random every time I go on here to look at stuff and I'm on the YouTube?
I have no idea. What is Coach Carter?
I don't
Have
know.
you got the XboxEra YouTube on your phone, John?
No, I use my personal account on my phone.
Okay. That would be hilarious if all it was just Coach Carter
Was it
recommendations.
the weirdest recommendations
I will say that
on this
I
account?
did accidentally watch and went down a rabbit hole of Sharp clips from the TV show Sharp.
Yes, I know from the
They might show up
7,000
on the Xbox
recommendations.
account, but
They do.
it was a mistake on my part. But other than that, but
Somebody's
yeah,
just watching movie
look,
clips.
PlayStation 5 Sweden. I feel bad that you didn't get a song, right?
You got some
so
things.
I'm
He
going to
was
send you
happy.
a link. I'm going to send you a link.
Is it to the cover version?
No, I need to work on that. I'll send you a link to let's go with what can I give him a link to? Oh, they're all here. Let's go for a link to this one. I'll give you, there you go. There's me covering a song when I was a lot younger and a lot thinner. So there you go. You get a song anyway. It's in the chat.
If John does actually get his stuff together and come to karaoke with the rest of us at Gamescom.
Is it karaoke?
There's always karaoke.
Mate, I will wreck that shit.
I will make sure that John films himself and me and anybody else involved doing at least one song each, and we'll post it somewhere online.
Oh, okay. Now I know there's karaoke. Jesse's going to be getting up on stage, right?
Yeah, honestly, the amount of people that you see karaoke and like, oh, you write for this website, and the only time they actually come out is when the karaoke's on.
I love it. I love it. All right, we're going to wrap up the show. Gareth, as always, absolute pleasure having you on, and thank you for pulling the long shift and staying up till 2 a.m. with me on this one.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you for coming on and chatting the industry with us. I know that it's not been a cheerful couple of weeks, but it was nice to hear some infos and some insights from someone that's been doing this stuff for a very long
It's
time.
very important. I don't know everything, right? And I will be honest when I say this. I don't know everything, but I know enough to offer some insight. So obviously, again, full disclosure, I did say, John, can I come on this week just so I can actually talk about it? Because it's really fucking pissing me off. And the internet or Twitter or X specifically is an echo chamber of idiots most of the time. So they're even starting to question who I was or Chris Dream or everybody else. Like, who the fuck are you? How would you know? Oh, because Chris is one of the industry's best business journalists. He's a shill then. I was like, oh, fucking hell, we're dealing with these people.
But I think it's important to offer insight where you can. My insight will not be for everybody, but at the same time, I do love talking shit with good people. So thanks for letting me come on.
Oh, why are you on here then?
3.5 hours.
Appreciate it. And chat, I hope you guys had a good time. Thank you for hanging out with us, for your questions, for your patronage. We really appreciate it. As always, last reminder, if you love what we do, head to patreon.com/XboxEra. It is the very best way that you can keep us alive. Until next time, we will be back on Tuesday with more video game industry news on headlines, as well as Thursday. And Nick will return for next Saturday's podcast. Until then, don't take it too seriously. Just play some video games and have a good time. All right. Ciao for now.
Bye-bye.